been this way again. I am the rain. I am the spy. Before the blade, I am the raindrop out at sea. I cause the ripples that become the crashing wave. I am the rain.
Whoa.
Hey,
Hey.
we're in. How you doing?
I was expecting the intro. I guess I didn't put that part in.
You fucked up. Do it again. Run it again. We got
I was
20 minutes.
just pulling my pants up, and now they're stopped just below the bottom sector of my ass.
Yeah, you're in the basement. You're okay.
Everyone's staring at me. What? Spilled coffee all over my balls. How's everybody doing?
Are you expecting a response?
Yeah, well, everybody but you. I expect a response from the other fucker here.
I'm fine. How are you?
Sound effects coming through good?
No, I didn't hear anything.
You
Are you using it?
hear that? Yep. I
Uh
thought I would.
oh.
Oh shit. Okay, this is not good. This is not good. Hold on.
Emergency.
Say something. Don't.
Hello. Hey guys. Dimes has to get the soundboard going because if you can't do trans dimes, it's just not a show. It's just not the same, you know? Come on. Where's the noise? Bring the noise.
I don't know what's going on here. Okay.
We didn't have a lot planned for this stream. So
What the fuck's going on? It's set up right here.
behold accurately analyzing
wait.
that the soundboard is broken.
Wait. You know what? I think it. Okay. Well, just fill the air with something.
Here we go.
For the love of God.
Okay, so here's the thing. I got a new job and I'm my probation is up tomorrow.
The first thing he does is he doxes himself, by the way, every single fucking time.
What? Did I got a new job?
I got my social insurance
we're
number.
We're gonna find him yet. Now we know that he is the only guy in. You know what? That's fair. The only guy in Ontario, the only white guy, the only white Christian father who actually just got a fucking job. I'm probably the only person who has a job at this point. So I am doxing myself. Yeah, I was supposed to go in and have a report with the CEO to see whether I get to keep my fucking job, but he was too busy. So that'll be tomorrow, and that makes me think that I'm probably getting fired. I heard a "fuck you, Judas," and it sounded like here we go.
Okay, how do I sound? Back. Is my voice still good?
Oh, you sound like a darling. You sound great.
But the same as before, right? Because I got like a whole bunch of stuff hooked up. Okay,
you sound the same.
So you're getting fired, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I'm probably getting fired. So it's back to the old grindstone for me. I'll have to actually do some work for once if I get fired.
Well, can you take revenge? Because you just passed your probation.
No, my probation ends tomorrow, so this is his last opportunity to fire me without severance.
We'll see. Well, also 3-month severance wouldn't be a lot.
Well, that's also true. You have to give me 2 weeks notice at the very least.
All right, so I got something here, came across my desk, a real life comment from Jar Jar Abraham. He says, "Damn it, just started with the Tucker Putin interview, and after finally getting through Putin's 20-minute laborious autistic lecture on the borders of Eastern Europe, those fucking Leafs decided to go live." And that's interesting because, yeah, Tucker Carlson just dropped an interview with Russia's Vladimir Putin.
Is it still live right now?
It dropped, and most people are going through it right now, so I don't think they finished it.
It's because you asked me that 30 minutes ago. You're like, "Hey, have you watched this thing yet?" I'm like, "What? No."
Yeah, well, because I have watched maybe 45 seconds of it, and I think that's enough to speculate. I think that's enough to just go off and say what needs to be said about this interview. Also, everyone in our chat, our community, has been going off on it and providing their takes, very passionate takes. And so my commentary is based on their description. So I don't know if that's too far removed to be valid, but
that's all of our opinions mostly. I mean, years ago we used to actually consume media unto ourselves, but now we pretty much just regurgitate what happens in the Telegram chat. So it's I think it's what people are looking for now.
Yeah. So just we got a comment here from James Nope, a valid question. What is the topic for tonight? It's not going to be this. Straight to the point, James Nope.
He's looking at his watch.
Yeah, we should handle this stuff beforehand. But we're talking about a movement in the conservative sphere in the American GOP, and a document called Project 2025, Mandate for Leadership. and there's a Substack all about that. Basically, it's this 900-page plan for next year, um, detailing what an incoming conservative president can do to essentially gut the deep state and force their way to rework the entire government. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but the entire document, it's intended for whoever the president is. It doesn't even need to be Donald Trump. It could be anyone there. And it's just to attack the deep state and their claim. And this was a document that was prepared by nearly every single conservative or GOP adjacent think tank that's out there. And it's to try and figure out who to hire, who to fire.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out if that's also applicable to Canada. And they're saying that the problem Trump had and the problem a lot of his voters have is that they thought they could elect one guy to do this for them. But what you need is a coordinated attack from multiple vectors to like essentially gut and change all the institutions. So we're going to get to that a bit later. And there's a Substack written about that. I'm not going to read the entire thing because, as I said, it's 900 pages. It's very, very dry. More importantly, there's a video that, from a more progressive liberal point of view, what they're saying about it. Because I want to hear what the leftists and the liberals are saying about this sort of thing. And what interested me was we were never really talking about this that much. In our scene, we're very esoteric and we're very theory based. And, the people who do want to plan, they do want to plan for the apocalypse, but they don't really want to talk about, like, let's say within the next 2 years, you wanted to completely change the, environmental bureau, or how to like reduce funding for this or that. Like, could you get someone hired to do that? And it wouldn't involve an election. It would involve just staffing problems.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, that's very practical and that's very immediate. And some people might scoff at that and say, well, that's just trying to, rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. But I'm like, well, that's one thing you could do. And I think just as a plan of attack for this thing that they call the deep state, it's interesting. So I wanted to talk about that and how people, the left, are saying that's creeping fascism.
Yeah.
But before that, there was a couple of things I wanted to get to, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that Tucker interview. If anyone wants to hear that, just from what I was hearing,
Let's
and
have it.
they were begging for us not to talk about this tonight. Because most people are still not all the way through it. It seemed that even like Keith Woods was saying that it was a missed opportunity. What Putin was doing was the first 20 to 30 minutes was an overview of Russian history, not only within the region of Russia and Ukraine, because that's what most of the interview was about, was the current conflict there, but it was about Russian history generally. So he is, for all intents and purposes, a blood satellite listener.
Nice.
Going back to the 8th century, going back to like, who are the Russians, who's their identity. Now, a lot of people, even in our chat, were saying that, well, that's wasted time. That's for the Russian audience. Be that as it may, I think what that did, and I might be being too charitable here, because even Tucker was interrupting him. Like, okay, where is this going? Is this filibustering? Is this a bunch, this seems like prepared remarks that have nothing to do with anything. However, I thought it did an interesting job of reframing the debate, because people are of two minds about it. Either Russia felt attacked and threatened by the US from NATO, right? And so and that's sort of a neo-realist point of view. But then there's the more NATO friendly point of view, which is that Russia's just evil and wants to attack because they're an expansionist power and want to expand forever, which is partly true. Like, there is some truth to that. But he seemed to reframe it, and some people think that's a waste of time. But I thought it was kind of interesting how he's like, no, it's this third thing. It's that we have a historical claim to this territory.
Right.
And I think what he might have been trying to do, and this is all just me talking shit, I think he was trying to almost reframe it as like, this is like America wanting to keep its grasp on Arizona. This is like the southern border. Like, it used
Yeah.
to be Mexico, but it's America. You want to keep that, right?
Yeah.
That's important to your sovereignty, your identity. So even, again, maybe it was too bloviating, but I also think that he had to discuss this whole conflict where he's just not a megalomaniacal tyrant, which is what a lot of his audience, not his audience, but not even Tucker's audience, but all. Here's what I was saying before. I'm like, Tucker is essentially blowing up his life for this interview. Going to Russia, speak like the State Department's going to come down hard on him. Like his career might very well be over. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen now. But he went over there, and I think Putin, was like, I'm going to show them that I'm not a fucking psychopath. If anything, I'm a history nerd. But the audience is like people trying to look at Tucker Carlson like he's a traitor. So Tucker Carlson's actually asking some pretty basic but hard questions, and then Putin is trying to be like, look, let's start in the 8th century is what he's saying. And so, that is what it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I don't think it's random. I don't think it was a total misfire.
Well,
if I'm being charitable, I think that's what they were doing.
Demographically, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not Tucker Carlson's target demographic. I think he's a controlled op, but I think a lot of people, like kind of maybe Q boomers or even regular boomers that like to watch Tucker, maybe I don't want to be mean, maybe there's a little bit more like historical geographical illiteracy on that side, and it might actually be helpful to do a little bit of Russian brand awareness. Like there's probably a decent number of people who are conservative, maybe older Tucker viewers who don't actually know, for example, what's been going on in Ukraine since the Maidan. Like that's the main thing when I talk to people, older people who are conservatives but pro-Ukraine because they're pro-government or whatever. I just bring up what happened with the Maidan and then over the past 10 years in Donetsk and Lugansk. Like, again, I'm not pro-Russian, but also you can't look at what's been going on there and treat it like it didn't happen, right? So I think a little bit of history goes a long way. So maybe it was a good idea to start with that.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to play just a quick clip here. Maybe spending a bit more time on this than I want to.
Look at the tasteful amount of snow in his hair, as if he's really there.
That seems right. It seems fake, right? I'm not.
Oh yeah,
it seems
it's fucking fake. This is such an op.
That's an unreal dusting of hair we're seeing on this man's head.
Hey fellas, I'm Johnny Monoxide, and this is clearly an op. It's fake, just like the Civil War and the moon.
And he would be correct. As usual, he would be correct. What an odd look for that jacket, but then also that very, very blurred Kremlin. But maybe here's the thing: if it is real, I'm going to feel fucking stupid. All right, let me know if you can hear this.
The following is an interview with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, shot February 6, 2024 at about 7 p.m. in the building behind us, which is, of course, the Kremlin. The interview, as you will see if you watch it, is primarily about the war in progress, the war in Ukraine, how it started, what's happening.
You do have to clarify about which war it is he's talking about, the one in Ukraine. There's actually a couple right now. I always forget that. Like, was this the Yemen thing, or is it?
And Uganda. Most pressingly, how it
is this, or the Israel-Palestine? We forgot about that, right? Are we still talking about the Israel-Palestine thing
every day?
I tell you what, on my fingers so far off the pulse of that. If you told me all the Palestinians were dead, I'd probably believe you, because the moment people turned away, that's when they bring out the mustard gas, right?
Yeah.
Maidan. One note before you watch. At the beginning of the interview, we asked the most obvious question, which is, why did you do this? Did you feel a threat, an imminent physical threat? And that's your justification. And the answer we got shocked us. Putin went on for a very long time, probably half an hour, about the history of Russia going back to the 8th century.
I'll say that does look like real snow now. That might just be unreal Russian snow.
It's one of these things where it's so beautiful and perfect that you're almost a sucker for believing it's real, and it's sad because it probably is real. But
now, I'm looking at Putin because I was hearing rumors. This is how you can't trust news. I was hearing rumors that this guy was on death's door.
No,
right? Because I've been hearing for at least 2 years that he's got cancer and dementia, and he looks pretty good. Like, he looks better than Biden. I know that's not saying
he
much.
rules so authoritatively that I think if he were actually sick, he would just be dead because somebody would just knock him off,
Yeah. So I'm just going to play.
Considered to be the year of the establishment of the Russian state in 862, when the townspeople of Novgorod invited a Varangian prince, Rurik, from Scandinavia to reign.
Look at Tucker!
In 1862, Russia celebrated the 1000th anniversary of its statehood.
Look at his face.
And in Novgorod, there is a memorial.
I don't think I've seen this face before.
Oh man, what
I don't
the
think
fuck
I've.
is this?
I know the confused Tucker face. He seems angry, I think, but it's hard to tell.
I think he's supposed to be angry. They probably told him like, "Oh, you got to look more angry, Tuck." Evil Putin.
Oh,
I just love the really bad translator voice. It's like watching a like a public access documentary.
Also, a good comment from Behold right here. ANCAP tie.
Oh
You're
no.
looking at an actual ANCAP tie. Let me just also, I have access for the first time and maybe ever to the Odyssey chat. I'm just going to read a couple here to let people know. This better be good. I paused my Blood Satellite podcast for this from Winkler's Meat. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Milk Tucker says, watch Blood Satellite. The Odyssey ones are always very nice. You ever notice that the Odyssey chat is glowing?
They're
YouTube,
fellas.
very pointed, very catty. I'd say venomous. I'm going to I'm just going to skip ahead here.
A few years later, another union was signed, but this time already in the religious sphere.
I'm not going to watch this anymore, but I just wanted to give. I did just want to like give a taste of what we're talking about. It's over 2 hours long, and I don't know, like to me, a lot of people were very highly critical of it, but I don't think it's. Let me see here. I'm going to read a comment from our chat by an individual named Jeff. He's upset because what Putin was saying later on was that the big problem they're trying to solve is Nazis. The Nazis are still there. And this was a point that I believe Keith Woods might have made as well. And so I think there's a lot of, I can't find the words right now. A lot of upsetness on our side that they're still dealing with the Nazis. And so some people were making the point like, is this still the remnants of the USSR rattling around in his head because he was a former KGB guy?
Mhm.
How deep do the roots of the former Soviet Union go into the Russian psyche?
Yeah.
Is there still a war against Nazism, or is Nazism seen as some kind of aggressor? Or is he just saying that because he thinks that'll ring alarm bells in the American's mind? That's hard for me to tell. I actually don't know.
Well, I mean,
Because
the other part of it is, I mean, if you compare that, because obviously our people are calling them Nazis. Everybody calls everybody Nazis. But when he says Nazis, he's not. I mean, he's there's more truth in it, right? Because I forget the name of them, but the one there's essentially a Nazi militia in Ukraine that have been flying those flags since the end of the war, and like that's cool. You shouldn't blow them up. That's fucking based. But also, yeah, I mean, if you wanted, I don't know, if you wanted to hate Putin, there's a good reason actually. There's a bunch of Slavic nationalists who have been trying to defend their homeland, and anyway,
Jeff is saying that
there we go.
Jeff is saying that he says we should nuke them all, and by them all I think he believes all Slavs. So I don't know how popular that sentiment is amongst the listeners, but
I don't know, Jeff.
But yeah, anyway, so that's all I'm going to talk about with that. We'll see what happens with Tucker, because I had said before he seems to be putting his entire career on the line for this. The rumor was that I read was he moved all of his finances into Bitcoin, and there was a significant Bitcoin bump today.
Yes.
I don't know if that's. I know the bump is real.
Yesterday.
I don't know if he actually did, but
The bump was real, but it wasn't that
all right.
much. It's not any more than you usually get on some dumb fucking news. So
thankfully, Yin is here to remind them, isn't Dimes a Slav?
yes,
And nuke Dimes.
yeah.
So
Dimes is what we call
I
a hyper Jew because he's half Anglo and half Slav.
I think that's unfair. I think that's a mischaracterization of me.
James
It is funny
says
though.
he used to be a Slav, but he got better.
James, let's throw that up on the board. I used to be Slav, but I got better. Yes. It turns out if you read enough like weird books, you just stop being any race, actually. Now there's another thing. I want to kind of waste some time on this because I don't have a lot planned for this episode. But you saw this, and let me just pull it up here. How do I- Screen. All right, here. This came across our desk in the chat, and I just wanted to spend some time here to talk about it. This is on Reddit. We're looking at 2X chromosomes, which is where all the sad girls hang out. All the witch types, the SSRI eyes people. And the title we're looking at here is How Many Women See Their Partner's True Colors on Their Wedding Day / Honeymoon. So a lot of people post these things in our chat and say without comment or comment not needed. But there's a lot here. There's a lot going on in this thread. So let me just start by reading it. And I want to get your thoughts on this. So feel free to jump in and feel free. Oh, look, someone here in the chats. Dimes coin is mooning.
There
right
you
now.
go. That's
Looking pretty
rare.
good. Actually, it's not rare. Actually, it's a stable coin. You want a stable coin.
You do. Yeah, that's true.
So here's go. I just read the article from Elon Musk's first wife from years ago. I don't know who's too many ex-wives writing articles,
Yeah.
right? Who wants to read that? I remember I read an article by like Bill Burr's girlfriend once on one of those. There's entire sites and periodicals just set up to have like jilted exes write articles. Where she details how awful he was to her and their marriage. Now, notice the word in there, how awful he was, because if it's rape, then you'd say rape. If it's physical abuse, then you'll say physical abuse. If a guy's just awful, it means he like ignored her. So if it's serious, they'll say it.
Yeah.
Now, there's a moment where he leans over to her during their actual wedding reception as they are dancing. It says something like, I am the alpha now, or something ridiculous. And let me just say this. I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe he probably said that.
I've watched enough interviews with him. He would absolutely say something cringe like that.
Yeah, he would say something straight up autistic, probably as a joke.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine marrying a tech billionaire libertarian who like just says a online guy joke and says, you are my property now. And then her just shocked and mortified face as if she doesn't know this motherfucker. As if he doesn't have like Shirama wardrobe at home or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just eating enough Rick and Morty to understand this guy. She says it was a shock, and the first time he'd said something. Yeah,
bullshit.
Here's what I'd like. Also, but here's the thing I'd like to let women know: if a guy says something ridiculous just one time, it might be a joke.
Maybe, who knows? But also the idea that she'd never heard him say anything like this. It was either a very, very short courtship process or she's fucking lying. Because if you've seen interviews with him for decades, he's always been a fucking weirdo. This is not only the exact type of joke that he would make, but he's probably been doing this since he was a teenager because he's just an autistic guy. He's a weird guy. So don't act like, I think what it is you were in the honeymoon phase or whatever, where you're not really noticing this. And now the marriage is essentially over and you get to get a little more hard in your analysis. So that's all it is. That's probably most of these cases.
Also, here's the next part. I sent it to my mom, and she reminded me that my aunt's boss once told my aunt. Already, this story is like 4 people removed.
She's just flexing on her mom that she married Elon Musk.
You know, your aunt's boss once had a story about her husband. This is not even a story. This barely counts as a daydream at this point.
Yeah.
On her wedding night, her new husband told her he'd wished she was his ex-partner in that dress, but she was a fitting replacement. The first time he'd realized he was hung up on his ex. Well, that sounds like just a dude comment, like maybe an inappropriate comment.
See,
but
that,
also,
like, I don't think that's divorce worthy, but I mean, that's compared to the "I'm the alpha now" comment. That's pretty cutting. That's pretty awful. Like, if I said that in my marriage, that would result in a very long fight. I would never say that. But the whole "I'm the alpha now" thing, like, that's kind of cringe funny. Like, shut up.
You know what? That in that dress, that's a certified second or third wedding comment. That's a guy, if he's divorced and he's like, well, second time's the charm.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a lot of those jokes. See, here's if you're a wife, if you're married to a divorced man, you get all the dad jokes.
I think she interpreted it wrong too. I think she's like, "Oh, this is the moment when I realized he's still obsessed with his ex." No, this is the moment you realize that this wedding doesn't mean anything to him and probably doesn't mean anything to you either, and you're fucking projecting.
Oh, here's a comment from Yin. There's a super wholesome video of this guy pulling his new stepdaughter in front of the altar after marrying her mom. He did a speech about his commitment to the new daughter. At all the comments of the video
Gross.
were women having issues with the word mine. You are mine now. I mean, you're allowed to own children.
How
I
old
think- I
was
think-
she would be the main thing. In my head, when you said that, she's like 30. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, we're really, bargaining up with these ages. I'm imagining like 75-year-olds getting married and just shit talking each other. Imagine that. Imagine like a boomer comic, that couple, but getting married, just getting married to the woman you hate. All right. I want to just read a couple of these. We could spend all night here. We're not, but we could. This is a good chaser after hearing Vladimir Putin. I was in an abusive marriage. I suppose if you squint and tilt your head, you can see some red flags. You're going to see a theme with a lot of these comments. No one saw any red flags, or they'll blame rose tinted glasses, which sounds funny because rose tinted glasses are only supposed to be for a little window of time, not like the 8 years you knew a guy.
Yeah.
All right. So red flags while we were dating, but he was quick to ask and value my opinion when we were dating. He agreed with my political views. What political views? We split the work evenly. I had equal control of the finances and the budget. The abuse started the very day after our honeymoon. Well, as it does. I just want to say this. A lot of these stories that we're going to see have to do with, I think, women really, really taking a honeymoon period seriously. And let me just say, for the guys who haven't gotten married before, getting married is a fucking tribulation. Like there is like a whirlwind of emotion, but it's a lot of work. You'll have a lot of fights during your wedding, and that's normal because especially if you're the ones doing it, you need to schedule all this shit and pay a bunch of people, and you're looking at your finances thinking it shouldn't cost this much, but it does, and it's going to cost more. And it's like do I want to get married to this woman? Like she's bossing me around now. Like it's a weird way to see your spouse. There's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows, but it sounds like he changed after the wedding. It's like, well, he has to. Of course he has to change. Women change after the wedding.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons you get married. It's supposed to be a like state of affairs, right? What do you think about that?
No, I don't think so. I think if there's a significant difference before and after, either one or both of you is a psychopath, but more likely you're just bad at reading people, or you are totally caught up in a very short courtship and an exciting wedding planning process. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm looking at this one especially. I don't want to stand up if this story is true. This guy's a fucking monster. I don't want to stand up for this guy. But also, I don't think the story is true. And even if the story was true, there's no fucking way if a guy actually did all of that you didn't see that coming a mile away. There's no, and she even said to me, well, maybe if I tilted my head, I could have seen the red flags. Fuck you, bitch. You could have seen it. Like the guy's clearly a psycho and you wanted to marry a psycho, you know what I mean? And you cash out with the psycho in your arms and you're like, oh, fuck, I didn't want this after all. He's going to abuse me. Like,
these are all good points. I'm just trying to give it the
thank you.
the audio it
Thanks
deserves.
for that.
Let me just highlight this part here. Does this change your opinion on this man at all? The sexual abuse started that night when he set up a camcorder facing the bed and insisted we have sex daily and record it.
Yeah, that's
Now-
fucking weird.
But what if it was for research purposes?
I mean, are we joking? Yeah, we're joking around. It's very funny, but honestly, though, no, that's really fucking weird. Like, why did you get married? I don't know. Like, that's some weird shit.
I could not. But also, it seems odd that you would spring that on it,
And then
all of a
say
sudden,
like
right?
get used to it. And then if no, then let's get divorced, even though we've only been married a week. Like again, if this is true, which I don't think it is, there's no way you didn't see this coming. The sort of person that
Let me
could
just say
pull this
this.
off, you would have 1,000 red flags.
Let me just say this. Here's where I'm on the guy's side. Even though I was pregnant, he denied me food. Sometimes you gotta, okay? Women.
Maybe there's more to that story because she's saying, "But I wanted my French onion dip." Like maybe you've had a little much.
Here's Winkler's meat here in the chat. Spousal abuse is a man's reward for putting up with the wedding process. That's a great point.
Look,
Thank you.
I was very stressed during my wedding process, but the stress did not come from my wife. It came from my family, as much my family as hers. So I don't know. Again, look, I don't want to be that much of a dick, but like if you're having a really bad time in your wedding process and your wife's driving your fiance is driving you fucking nuts, you probably shouldn't marry her. To be honest with you, if she's such a pain in the ass, maybe you should find somebody else.
Yeah. Let's see here. Here's a weird one. My great aunt used to have to officiate weddings. She pulled me aside after the rehearsal just to tell me that because of her mobility issues, she wouldn't be able to file the certificate in time. When I asked her about it after the wedding, she said she had been in a marriage with a man who said "I do" really meant "I guess," and his fidelity didn't even last through the honeymoon, if it ever existed at all. See, this is what I noticed is as I was going through these comments, it had little to do with did someone change after the wedding, and more like, "Oh, I found out he was cheating on me the whole time,"
Yeah, exactly.
which is bad.
Exactly.
You shouldn't do that. But
Again,
also,
there's so many ways to like. It's kind of easy to spot guys that are like that. Whether or not you agree with it, it's not. It is, at least as a guy, it's not a big surprise to me when I find out from somebody that that's happening. Hey, we did get a dono $10 from Milk Trucker in the Odyssey. He says, "Women are so dumb, and so is yawn."
so I think I think he might mean yin.
I'm sorry, Yen. It was $10.
All right, we got one from Need for Sneed in the Odyssey chat. Abusive to women is a total wild card. Typically means bothered me a few times, or he gave me the ick. And again, that's what I noticed as I was reading these. It was a lot of like if it was physical abuse, that's the abuse started. Well, did he hit you? Well, no, it was more emotional. There's a couple here I want to find. Let's see here. There's a specific points of the relationship where an abuser will start to take off his mask. Oh, here we go. Watch this. A dear friend said in the day of her wedding, she saw something die in her new husband's eyes. He went from happy and active to a depressed lump. They divorced a year later. So very
Is it
odd.
odd though? Is
So
it really odd?
mixed in with these are ones where the guy regrets marrying the woman and gets sad.
Yeah.
And that's also you'll see. This is what I noticed, that abuse is a very large umbrella to these individuals.
And there's a whole range of scenarios that lead up to a wedding, right? Like you can be courting someone for 7 years and live with them and have a kid with them and then get married. Or you can be dating somebody on and off for 3 months, never live together, and then go through the wedding process and both of you are weird lumps, and by the time you get married you already hate each other, and then you get divorced. Like that's the common thing. And the whole thing about no fault divorce, like obviously it's bad, but the other thing, I think the corollary to that is we kind of need to teach people how to actually find a partner, because I don't know how people are picking. I see people getting married and it's like, what the fuck are you thinking? Why would you marry that person? Jeez.
You know, one thing I noticed was, and this is again me speculating on their stories, but a lot of women here were saying they change after you get pregnant or while you're pregnant. And
No, you
they're
change.
saying that's
No, you.
that's
No, you.
that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it turns out that they change into an evil monster when you just happen to be an emotional wreck and the most hormonal you've ever
When you
been.
have a freight train of like hormonal damage running through your endocrine system for 9 months. Yeah, no, it's definitely the guy doing that.
Yeah, and it's like they change right after. It's like, well, yeah, things change when you have a kid. Like your body changes when a woman has gives birth rather. Her body and mind change, and it never really goes back. So, what I was noticing, and I think this is a driving force behind all of these forums and subs. So women have this expectation of like the honeymoon phase lasting forever, even though it seems that all these honeymoon phases sound awful.
Yeah.
Like honestly, after our wedding, like we were because we helped plan the entire thing, and we actually didn't have a honeymoon because COVID hit. We couldn't travel, so we actually never got to go on a honeymoon. But yeah, it seems that they were expecting the chaos, that the high emotional chaos of the wedding to kind of persist after, and the guys just kind of relaxed.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and a lot of people telling stories about their great aunts and their boss's sister. So it's just like a broken telephone game with these bitches.
Yeah, and there's just not that many firsthand anecdotal experiences anymore because a lot of bitches aren't getting married. And the examples that they do have are bad because they all have fucking bad marriages. This is a little bit of Schadenfreude because of the number of these women that think they're so clever landing a guy just based on their ass. And it's like, if the only reason he's with you is because of your ass, he's first of all absolutely going to cheat on you. He's probably already cheating on you, and he's definitely going to divorce you in 2 years when your ass isn't as nice to him. Maybe your ass didn't change, but he's going to leave you. Like, that's just the dumb. Like, that's what I'm saying. How do people do that? I know people who are married like this. It's like, oh, we fit perfectly together. Why? Because you're both tens. That's cool and all, but like a guy can pull tens all day.
Okay,
I don't know.
here's one again that I don't think fit the theme. I dated for 9 years before getting married. Been married for 2. And he told me about 10 months and he'd been chatting and sending nude pics with someone who is now trying to blackmail him. I'm like, that's
Nice.
bad. That's not him changing after he got married to abuse you. That's
Yeah.
that's him getting caught in some kind of
Also, it's not that bad, and he told you about it because he's essentially apologetic and wants your help. So, like, yeah, guy made a mistake. That's fucking stupid, but yeah.
some guys. Hey, have you ever considered that guys send nude photos for non-sexual reasons?
And me, no.
You ever
Hey,
just
Patrick says Judas doesn't know good ass when he sees it. Excuse me, sir. I could write a fucking dissertation on good
yeah,
ass. I'm not gonna, but
for the library's LGBT section, I tell you what,
no,
Humiliation.
fuck.
for the for the fucking wildlife section, because you're into dogs.
What would I name the book? I name it World of Rump.
World of I bet that that book probably exists. You know what? I bet if you actually went into a queer bookstore, I would assume it's half like bestiality shit.
Probably.
Did you hear? I'm not
Well,
going to get.
Vouch is the one who wrote the book called World of Rump. Yeah, except that
We're
it's
not gonna get.
Wally and horse dick.
We're not even going to show the screenshots because
No,
it's repulsive
it's
and we
bad.
get in
It's
trouble.
bad.
But the internet's Vouch, who's I guess you would call him a leftist streamer. It's hard to pin him down. I'd say he's kind of Marxist
He's
progressive.
gay.
He is. Well, here's the
gay.
question: like, are you gay if you're only into animal penis, but you're
You're
gay?
Gay is
Hmm.
just being a degenerate to me. I don't give a fuck. If you like
True.
dogs, you're gay. If you like children, you're gay. You're all fucking gay.
You're all gay. Well, honestly, this was the argument I was making before that on a long enough timeline, they do become a smorgasbord of all of that. I think.
Yeah, well, like gay is the gateway degeneracy to lead to all of this shit. So gays are insane.
Well, it was Ted LaFaro from our chat, who I think is probably active in the chat here.
Jimmy.
He was saying that anarchists, and I think he was even referring to Josh Neal, who was on with Pete Kionas recently, saying that anarchists are all just pedophiles, and they had a good laugh about it. But there is something to that, where if we've given a fair shake to anarchist literature in the past, and we even have a few anarchists as kind of right-wing anarchists, but I think even they would tell you that anarchist groups, they're just sexual degenerates. And my feeling is that once if your thing is abolishing all taboos, the end state of that is going to be pedophilia. You're going to have people in there dragging you or guiding you into that. Just always end up there.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this in detail, but everybody kind of makes fun of me for being a libtard. What do you call it? A lolbert, right-wing ANCAP. But the whole pedo thing is cross political boundaries. Right-wing and left-wing anarchists have this fucking pedo problem. And it's exactly what you just said. It's if your political system goes outside of taboos, then it, of course, is going to become a haven for the worst types of degeneracy. When I started examining all of this, I was a teenager. I was on the left side. That's what I was looking at, because obviously you're a fucking teenager. That's cool, right? But then I kind of realized that, there is no backstop in that community against this shit. Like, you want to remove the laws because you don't think the laws are fair and you hate the police, ACAB, okay, but like fucking kids and like all of this up. No, I don't think so, man. The thing with, anyways, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I just wanted to say it is interesting that it is completely across political boundaries. Right-wing ANCAPs, right-wing anarchists and left-wing anarchists, they're not all pedos, but they all tolerate pedos on principle, which is just fucking embarrassing.
Yeah, Yin makes a good point here. If we say that word too much, we might actually get nuked from YouTube. So
do
I
you
know
say?
there's streamers that find a way around that.
Pizza enjoyers.
Pizza enjoyers, sure. But yeah, like I was saying to Ted before, the thing about this is if you looked at Vaush's screen, because the whole story here is that he was pulling something up on his stream and he showed a folder on his computer to access. He kept his folder for his taxes that he was trying to show within his porn to sort later folder. And the reason I'm not showing the image is because that particular image had the images in question, which depicted lolicon, if you know what that is, basically hentai child pornography mixed in with bestiality. So it was like a prepubescent girl and a horse, and that's all to say to describe it. But that's why it's like it's a spread of all this stuff. It's like it's not just pedophilia, it's pedophilia plus bestiality
Right.
plus scat plus like all the stuff. It's just it's a fucking amalgamation of different fetishes, and I think that's where you end up in these scenes because you're bombarded with it because you can't answer the question, well, why is any of it bad?
Yeah.
And then I think you're just exposed to it all times. You end up like Vaush, who doesn't lose any fans from this, and this is like the latest in a long line of instances where he's been outed for being into horse penises.
Mhm.
I didn't know that was the thing.
It's funny 'cause- well, that's been a joke for a bit. Maybe not everybody picked up on that, but there's kind of a running thing that when he's in a debate, he as a comic gag, he will work the word horse penis into the debate. And it always kind of funny because there was one debate somebody called him on it because he had done it twice within like 30 minutes. And it's like, wait, why did you use the horse penis reference twice? It's like, that's as crazy as sucking a horse penis. It's like, but why did you say that a second time? Like now it's one's a coincidence, like one's an accident or whatever. But the second one is now there's a pattern. So
well,
and it
because
turns
I'm
out-
reminded of that famous instance of a Twitter user named Dr. Pizza, and he made his entire profile about pizza because I think he was mocking how a lot of the comic pizza people were saying that pizza is a symbol for child sex trafficking and pedophilia. And he was like, "Oh, you think they would just say it on the open?" Smash cut to like 6 months later, he was arrested and tried for child sex trafficking. So like sometimes it is that simple. Sometimes pedophiles are they're just doing it because they think it's funny, but they also mean it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about these people. They're not creative. Part of and this is what I put out there. I'm not sure this is true, but part of his proclivity might be getting caught.
I was going to say
it's like being a flasher.
Most pervs, right? Because I mean, here's my theory. The whole thing, it's not just about getting caught. It's about the taboo itself. The taboo makes them want to do it more. And of course, that's related to the act of getting caught and going to jail and being shamed publicly, right? Like, what is it? Like people who expose themselves publicly. Is it because they want everybody to look at them and go, oh, what a nice dick? No, they want everyone to point and laugh. That's what gets, you know what I mean? So I think it's the same shit. And if you bear that in mind, then it's easy to spot because you have somebody with weirdly colored hair or like a tranny being like, oh, I'm going to go right to the front lines on the child porn issue. It's like, oh, so you make child porn. No, I don't. And you obviously do. Otherwise you wouldn't be in the room.
All right, let me really quickly. I'm just going to show. I know Milk Road Trucker was an Aussie who doesn't know who this is. This is Vaush right here. We're seeing him. I just did a quick search. This is what he looks like.
Look at him.
He's a bearded guy. You've probably seen him before. He's a pretty popular streamer. I just searched Vaush. Oh, it gave me Brave. So hold on.
Without medicine, without the Green Revolution, people like him would have died at birth.
Yeah, he's from the Destiny sphere. If anyone knows anything about that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So this is the guy. This is just so you know. He's like everyone. He's got
such
the
a
purple
gay
light.
photo too.
Every streamer looks kind of gay as well. Like, and So here we go. Yeah, so that's him. You wanted to spend too long on that, but that's the context of it. Anyway, we can get on to the main thing now. We've talked about Putin. We've talked about bitches.
Talked about the fun stuff. Now we're getting to business.
Yeah, and so this will be a bit scattershot. We're going to watch a video in a little bit, but I'll just kind of tee this up here. Let me share the screen here. Here we go. Okay, so you're looking at Substack right now from Unreconstructed Sam Devlin. The title is Project 2025. You have 1 year. So there's been a lot of people who've been slinging around that catchphrase. You have 1 year, referring, of course, to next year, ostensibly the Trump election. But the idea is everyone is anticipating Trump is going to win, and they're anticipating it in very real language. And I'm getting, actually, and we'll tee this up with this. What do you think Trump's chances are of winning? With two things in mind. One, he seems like the obvious winner from where I'm standing, but also, I don't know where people stand on the election being stolen or everything being rigged or the system never allowing it. But like,
That's kind of two questions, though, isn't it? I mean, because
yeah,
from a in terms of, I mean, okay, I think the one question is, if we had a fair election, do people think that the majority of the population is behind Trump? I think absolutely yes. Then the other question is, will he win the election? Because as we said before, and everybody's making this argument now, all elections are rigged and have been in living memory. So it's just a varying degree of riggedness.
yeah, that's true. I'm just checking the Odyssey chat here. Oh, they're calling Vash a dilettante. True. Okay. That's where I don't know where I land on this, because it seemed like Trump should have been a shoo-in at the last election, whether or not you liked him. Him being reelected seemed like a sure thing, and yet here we are. But also that presents the problem that we've always gone back and forth with was, well, if that election was rigged, then every election was probably rigged, because we've always had issues with mail-in voting. They've always had issues with voter machines. If that's the case, then Trump's election was probably rigged too. So is it rigged in his favor? How does that work? So I don't know. Like, so it could be rigged this time, but I do think they're at a crossroads where they can't stay with Biden. And I don't think they're going to run anyone against Biden from the Democrat side. I don't think you can. And Biden, his brain is melting out of his skull. And I genuinely think everyone hates Kamala Harris. I think she knows everyone hates her. And that's why you don't hear from her. So they might be like, maybe it's Trump. Maybe we could actually work with Trump, because it's going to look bad if Joe Biden just dies and Kamala Harris is president.
That was that Jimmy O'Keefe thing the other day, right? Where he's like sucking a guy's dick, and then the guy tells him that everybody hates Kamala Harris. Did you see that?
No. What's that?
James O'Keefe previously of Veritas News interviewed a gay staffer, because they always seem to be gay. And that's one of the things the guy was railing about.
They do always seem to be gay, don't they?
They do always seem to be gay, yeah.
Every single one.
Maybe there's a pattern. I don't know.
This is good for us for content, but if I was in charge of any congressional staffing or any administrative state stuff, I really would not hire gay guys. Like, they seem to be the leak. Let's say, hey, look, they leak in more ways than one. Let's just say that.
Oof.
Hello.
You need a tighter seal than that. If you're
good afternoon. Yeah. Good morning. All right. So, Trump is probably, let's just say he's going to get in, because this is what I gauged it by last time. Everyone on the Democrat or the left they're already preparing themselves for it. They seem to be introducing the narrative that he's probably going to win. And they're almost resigned to it. And that's what I found interesting. Anyway, so they're talking about, you got 1 year till one of our guys is in, even if it's not Trump, it's some GOP candidate. And just to refresh our point we made earlier, this will sound once again like a tall glass of water, but I do think that this is sort of the last implicit stand of the white vote. And that, again, what do I mean by that? I think that the GOP was really pivoting, and so was the conservatives in Canada, frankly, pivoting towards non-white issues. Like, they're taking a hard look at the mass migration and saying, okay, maybe we shift over to these people because they have the numbers and we can control them. And so with Trump, I'm not saying he's like the white candidate, but I am saying like this seems like a last ditch effort to really make the migration issue a banner issue, because it seemed like the GOP, absent Trump, everyone was moving towards let's try and get the Latinos on board.
Yeah.
Let's actually just fucking forget about white voters or deprioritize them. That's the sense I was getting, especially as boomers begin to shuffle off this mortal coil.
Yeah.
That I think that's the calculus that they've been running. So at least with Trump, it's like maybe this is the last time you can get something like migration reform before that just isn't seen as an issue going forward. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's even a bit of a skew maybe people don't always consider when you look at demographics in the US. You have a rapidly changing like demographics as far as like per capita, like per head goes, right? But the whites are still the ones that largely are holding the economy up. The whites are the ones that actually have fucking jobs, as bad as they might be, but they're out there working and doing other things. These new browns that have been brought in, especially the illegals, but even the Somalis and, and wherever they are, I forget, fucking Wisconsin or whatever.
Oh no, it's
Like
Minnesota. I think.
Minnesota, fucking
Dearborn,
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Dearborn, Michigan. That's
Or
Michigan.
Dearborn, Michigan. Yeah,
Those
sorry,
two places. I think it's like the Afghans and Arabs that are in Dearborn and the Somalis in Minnesota. But regardless, all of these new groups, right? It's not just that there's more of them now, but they live on government dole. So not only are they really, really more political than the average white might be kind of center right or center. But these Somalis, they're left enough to equal 5 right-wing dudes. The other part of it is they don't fucking work. They live on government dole, so they can afford to spend all of their waking hours campaigning and being part of activist groups and posting bullshit online and making up stories and harassing people at newspapers. Like it doesn't matter that even though technically we're still a majority, I honestly think like de facto in terms of the power of the population, the way that all of these things interlink, the demography and the economics and, all of these things together actually put them at an advantage in terms of power. And I think that's what we're already seeing. So, I mean,
Advantage in what way would you say?
well, like I said, if you've got in a given town, it's 50% white and it's 10% Somali. But the 50% of whites are all lower or middle income and they all work full time and they're maybe center right politically. But the 10% that are Somalis, none of them work. They're constantly getting government checks, which means they want to defend those. And they spend all fucking day doing community organization and harassing people. And like this whole, if you remember during the previous election, all of that vote rigging in Minnesota was done by these Somali community groups. Like they were driving house to house and collecting people's mail-in ballots. Like Veritas pulled all that up, right? Like you don't see whites doing that. Whites don't do that. And it's not just culturally we don't do it, but show me a contiguous neighborhood of 30 white families where the mom, the dad, and the adult kids, none of them work, but they all get government checks and they spend all fucking day organizing to throw an election. That doesn't happen. It's just Somalis.
I think that's a great point you had made, which is that vote rigging and the machine glitches and everything aside, when we talk about vote rigging, we include voter intimidation and the rigging just from politically aligned groups who are just stealing your fucking ballots.
That's
and
right.
They know what they're doing. It's not thugs. It's not teens. It's these groups that know exactly what they're doing.
There's something that happens in aggregate, right? Like even if you have like volunteers at the polls, who gets to volunteer at the polls? You might have like if it was white people, you're gonna have old grandmas, But I mean, if you have upstanding, from our standpoint as like white Western chauvinists, an upstanding white probably owns a business and has 4 kids. He doesn't have time to fucking volunteer at the polls. But an upstanding Somali is this no work Muslim go-getter who's out there harassing people. So them being at the polls, that's all they do. Everyone's proud of them. Like they're proud of us for running a business. That means we can't interfere with an election. But if you're one of these Somali groups, you're literally, the thing I'm driving at here, these people act as though they're an invading army. They're proud of the fact that they live on dole and none of them have jobs. And then they rally around each other when they have all of these, these parades and protests and interfering with an election. It's like an exciting thing. If you remember, I mean, I keep calling back to it, but all those James Keefe James O'Keefe interviews during the previous election about vote rigging, and these guys were so fucking proud. They were that's how they got the interviews. These guys are bragging about it. Oh, today I got 63 of these mail-in ballots, and yesterday I got 27, but I'm gonna get 200 tomorrow. You just wait. Like they're so proud of themselves. Wow.
All right, let me just see this here. I'm just looking. I can switch over to the tab with the chat. Need for Sneed over on the Odyssey chat. He made a couple of points here. He says, if Trump doesn't win this election, this will be a legitimacy crisis. A literally senile, corrupt, incompetent campaigned from his basement and beat the incumbent who won all the bellwether states. You can't run this game again without tilting into full Soviet. The only all-white poverty areas in the states are forgotten places, like West Virginia or whatever. They aren't a political bloc like the various brown third worlders in these places, Dearborn, Somalis, and Minnesota, etc. There's no equivalent for us.
Right. That's
basically
exactly
what
it.
he's, So switching back to the
Patchwork on YouTube just said, I think he was recently on with Burden. He just interviewed Charles Haywood today. Is that James O'Keefe was on with Jay Burden?
I think he's talking about they're talking about King Pilled in the chat.
Oh, King Pilled. Okay. Oh. I was about to have a heart attack that James O'Keefe went on with our very best friend Jay Burden.
James O'Keefe and Tucker Carlson weighing on with James Burden.
There we go.
Once again, Burden trying to snipe all my guest ideas. No, but yeah. King Pilled is a very good. I want to speak to him soon if possible. He just followed me on Twitter, so we'll see if we can set something up with that in the future. So anyway, here is the Substack that we're looking at. Begins with 2 quotes, kind of annoying. One quote is already. I did one quote as an opener for a Vanguard's Journal article. Felt filthy. Never did it again. Don't do 2. Ovid, whatever. Here's a quote from tweet from Nightmare Vision, who we're fans of. Remember to let everyone know they have 1 year left. If someone upsets you in any way or expresses anything less than full, undying loyalty to what's coming, respond only by saying you have 1 year. This is what we were seeing in a lot of online spaces, especially Twitter. So first, open this and flip through it if you have the free time. This is the document I was talking about. You can see it over right here, project2025.org. Again, we're not going to go through this whole thing, but this is where you can find it, project2025.org. You can download it as a PDF. You can even read it right here from the website. You can buy it if you want. It is 900 pages, however.
That's what I like. Okay, I haven't read a lot of this. I've read a bit of it, but it's enormous. But that's the thing that struck me so often with this political shit. It's like it's a think tank or something. They throw out a bunch of ideas and they got a cool website, and it's like sign up for our newsletter to learn more. But if you start examining it, it's honestly kind of hollow. It's just a way to get a mailing list and get some donations, and probably it's a bit of a grift, right? But maybe there's a grift in here somewhere. But the parts that I read through, this is straight up like a standard operating procedure to run the entire American government. It's insane how detailed it is. It is literally just a manual on how to rebuild the entire government and get rid of the deep state. And it's the way that I look at this is like when we talk about there being no political solution, this is almost like a thought experiment where you say, what if there was a political solution?
Exactly.
How insane would it have to be? And this is what this is. This is every single lever that would have to be pulled synchronously to fix this. Is it possible? I don't know, but they did it. I mean, here's the document.
And that's exactly how I framed it to myself, which is that, okay, we all believe there's no political solution. Let's just say there was. What would be required? And they got enough people to like, there's Ben Carson. He wrote a chapter here. Gene Hamilton, like these are serious people. These are serious writers. This wasn't something that was just dashed off. And for the people who are listening, section 3, they got how to restructure the Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, Department of Human Services. So I think when a lot of people hear what the GOP wants to do, it's like, oh, they just want to gut everything. Not necessarily, but this actually explains, here's what we think about these departments. Here's how we would change them. And for any incoming leader, here's something you can refer to. And I think even if they don't walk into the Oval Office with that tucked underneath their arm, I think this could send off enough reverberations to the types of people who have always said, I think we should do this, but you've never actually thought about how. Because most people, when they think about policy, it's a very bird's eye, 10,000 feet view of here's where I would like to end up, but it's never how do we get there. And it's never, and this is what we always talk, my good friend Sean Weiland and many others, they always talk about the managerial elite or the managerial class, which is a real class. But we always talk about something that we hate or something that emerged in James Burnham books, right? But it's also like, okay, the managerial elite exists, the bureaucracy, or if you want to reframe this for a leftist, just say the organs of the state, the organs of power, then the light bulb will go up over their head, right? Just say, well, what if we just hired different people for those? We could gut them and then cause some problems. Like, what if we just got the 50 people we know that can be fired and fire them and fill it with a bunch of fucking micro dosing 23-year-old guys.
Yes.
That's basically it. Like, hire our guys, get our guys in these jobs. And again, you could scoff at that and say the entire system must collapse. I agree to a certain extent, but if there is a political solution, I think this is a good schematic. And that, for me, for all the books that we've read, I never see something explained so plainly before.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it. Just, I'm doing this thing where I just repeat what you say and I take it for me. So I said it now. That's what I said.
I forget if somebody shared in the chat or if it's on this webpage, but they were going through what happened in Trump's presidency, where at the beginning, and not in every case, but in a number of cases, he got the authority to take people out. And he just went like with a list of names, like a whole department, fired them all. And then he just started picking heads out of the private sector, mostly young people. And it's some of them, and the story was like, some of these people, they didn't turn out. They have no experience. They don't know what they're doing. But I mean, it's better than the incumbent who was, brought in by some Obama hack, right? And
Yeah.
it's better to have a bunch of fresh faces who are at least nominally on board with your movement than to have whoever the fuck was there. Like, the point is, you don't even need to know who that person is. They're fired. I don't care. Maybe you're on our side. I don't care. You're fired. You've been there more than 18 months. You're fired. You're all fired. And
you're all fired. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
you
I'm
get
gonna
a
bring in, who am I gonna,
government, whatever.
bring my cousin. I'm gonna literally pick someone off the fucking street. I don't care. Anybody. And if that causes the whole department to collapse in flames, cool. I mean, it's better than it actively undermining me. So
hey, I'm gonna staff the Department of Education with guys who have never been to college.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
I think
what about it?
I think we have that already, to be honest with you.
Well, we started doing the DEI, hiring, immigrants and women. It's like, well, yeah, you get it. So just scrolling down here, you're seeing how some of the other sites and news outlets have picked it up. Project 2025, a plan to dismantle U.S. climate policy for the next Republican president. Right-wing groups penned a conservative wish list of proposals. And you're seeing right here a typical leftist meme. You can tell it's optimized very poorly on purpose because something is funny when it looks like shit. It's a SpongeBob meme. I'm saying this for the audience at home listening. SpongeBob meme, and it's a whole block of text right here.
Why do they
saying
do this?
that calling it because you'll hear this described as a military coup, fascist. This whole thing is fascist, right? Of course. I'm just trying to scroll down here, and this is a couple of other tweets. A lot of tweets pulled from this, and I got some feelings about that, but I like these tweets, so it's okay. From Bookcat right here. Just think how lucky multinational corporations are that leftists started sodomizing each other instead of organizing steel workers. And this is I want to bring attention to this. This is the tweet I was talking about in a previous episode. I didn't know who said it. I'm giving them the credit here. This is Nightcore Fan A6.
Some fucking femboy.
Oh man. All anime looks the same to me. I can't tell. You know what I mean? Jen's, that sounds like a trans name.
Yeah.
You gotta check who you're screen. Book Cat. I don't know. That could go either way. I'm seeing a Pusheen here. My confidence that there's no trannies in this Substack article has plummeted.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to read the tweet.
The battlefield out there.
Winkler's Meat. Jens is a Swedish name, so definitely trans.
Trans Muslim.
Yeah. If you call yourself leftist, you can get away with embracing non-socialist economic positions and won't be kicked to the club by your peers. You cannot get away with not affirming black worship, trannyism, and replacement migration. Therefore, that is what leftism is. This is a system is what it does. We talked about this before.
Right.
I'm trying to skip the just scrolling down here. A short history on the deep state. References to a deep state as a concept in political science or folklore can be traced back to either Ataturk's Turkey or Ernst Frankel's characterization of the Nazi regime. In America, the deep state is just all of the unelected guys who outlast those who nominate them to their positions. Project 2025 targets America's overgrown civil service, the progressive replacement for the spoiled. This caste of mandarins quickly mutated from a cadre of impersonal administrators into the Byzantine enclave of insubordinate traitors we know today. Very NRX phrasing, very bombastic. That's what you're going to get with this group. Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of mandarins. I'm hearing about the Byzantines. Not sure how that plays outside of Twitter guys, but let's run with it. Okay. maybe bitches are all about the Byzantines now. Scrolling down, I don't like a lot of quotes. I don't like articles and Substacks where like a huge chunk of it is a quote right here. I want you to curate your quotes more.
Were you gonna let another man write on your Substack? Are you a cuck?
Well, is having slaves a cuck thing to do? I ask you. Seriously.
Fuck. Shit. You're gonna let another man pick your cotton? You fucking cuck.
You're gonna have another man sit in the sweat box. I like that you have a plantation owner getting pissed off because he's not getting all the punishments for the slaves.
Landlords are cucks because they let somebody else live in an apartment that they own.
You're gonna let another man pour drain down the sink and ruin your pipes because you raised your rent. Gay. You gonna let another man take a whipping for looking sideways at your wife? Fucking
that's
queer.
your job. You're supposed to look sideways at your wife and get whipped.
All right. The Red Decade, as Lyons calls it, maintains murky and misrepresented in the public mind. We will revisit it as McCarthy scandal in another post. See, I got led down a wrong thing there. I don't like people referring to other posts either. Genuine Trumpists filtered out by the Republican apparatchiks running the big man's transition team snuck into the administration through Ben Carson's Department of Housing and Urban Development. The globalist career bureaucrats across both parties can be outmaneuvered by you and your friends so long as you act judiciously. And I like that phrasing, you and your friends, because it encourages people to get like a few of their guys together and figure out how to get hired. Now, this wouldn't be for everyone, but I know a few guys in RC who are a bit more aligned with the mainstream political establishment. They went to the right schools. They know the right people. They actually go to these events, and they might be seen as, you're the monarchist at the party. You're the one who's got a few hobbyist fringe ideas, but they might not know how far your radicalism goes. So for those guys, they're like, you and I would never get into parliament in Canada, for example. They could probably
not through an election.
Yeah. We could get in with a crowbar. We could get in with a big enough boot.
There you go. A very fast truck.
Yeah. Process of parallel radicalization is what we're looking at here. He talks about one specific guy here that I found interesting. Talk about Trump's cult of personality. There's a specific guy who got elected. Too many of what remains of the alt-right still have this image of the former president. He was a bad and stupid all along because of Ma Kushner or something. But Trump's downfall from the peaks of 2016 rhetoric was a more gradual process. The story of the Trump campaign's corruption is the story of its evolution from a conspiracy of 8 staffers on the 5th floor of Trump's tower, picking cities for the boss to fly to and rant at, to the multi-million-dollar stage show of 2020. With victory came an influx of wealth and attention and the GOP's stale Reaganite bromides. Once Trump secured the nomination, the Republican establishment entered the building. Like Faust, he accepted their national infrastructure to battle against the Clinton machine. And this is another thing that Trump was supposed to have done, which is he thought he could just swing in on a vine and firmly make the deals with people. And he was blindsided by how no one wanted to do deals with him. Again, some people just think Trump was compromised the entire time. For the record, I'm not a Trump guy. I don't even think he has it in him to be the guy we want him to be. I do think he has it in him to probably push for migration, at least better than what Biden is doing. It could be a step in the right direction. I think what it signals would once again be the relevance of the white vote and a distinctly white issue. I think them trying to make mass migration a non-white issue hasn't worked. I don't think it's really worked with Latinos. I don't really think it's worked with Black people. You still see them beating the drum, trying to gather the Black vote around migration reform. I don't think it's working. And then forget it with Muslims, forget it with Indians, forget it with any non-white. So mass migration as an issue is a white American issue. So if he's pushing that issue, that seems to be one of the only explicitly white issues on the ticket. So can he do that? Perhaps. If that's his main thing. And I think now more than ever, he probably could because it's in the news so much. But you know, I would rather they not try to make this an issue for a multi-ethnic, multicultural American issue. It's very difficult to make immigration reform a multicultural issue. I don't think they can do it. So I'll also note that the GOP autopilot is, although far from what we want, a marked improvement over the rest of the politics post FDR. Meet John McEntee. This is the guy I was talking about. After a brush with viral superstardom, McEntee dropped athletics for politics and planned rallies in the early days of the Trump campaign. Here he is working in the most brutalist working conditions I have ever seen. Literally just, it looks like concrete walls. You can't just put up concrete walls, can you?
It's drywall.
It's drywall. Here's the thing. Fuck you. They're concrete walls that they just put up.
It's concrete drywall.
Concrete. Thank you.
Gyprock.
This is politics.
Yeah.
In the words of the Anon who pointed him out to me, he quit his job to volunteer for the campaign at a time when Trump was supported by no one aside from from anonymous Twitter racists. Though he was drummed out of the White House for a gambling problem, I like this guy already. This guy quits his job, works for free, gambling problem. Bet he vapes. Bet he's getting pussy in cars. Bet he's like driving a self-driving Tesla wrong. I love it. McEntee made his way back in January 2020, reeling from the colossal waste of time that was his first impeachment. Trump trained his sights on many enemies in the administrative state, now unmasking themselves. McEntee, a day one loyalist, was called out of the wilderness and put in charge of the Office of Presidential Personnel. This gave him the power to hire, promote, and reassign the president's 4,000 political appointees. McEntee introduced political loyalty tests, asking bureaucrats what they agreed with on his platform and how they plan to implement it. This will return in 2025. And they're calling this in the press like a Maoist sort of thing. Here's a picture here of Trump as Mao. You know, what if Trump was Chinese? They won't ask what if Trump was black. Now, here we go. Here's a quote from someone, couldn't tell you. In both attitude and mission, they were Trumpian version of the Red Guard youth of Mao's Cultural Revolution. They also seem to be another requirement. One senior White House official told me McEntee had hired the most beautiful 20-year-old girls he could find and guys who would be absolutely no threat to Johnny in going after those girls. Some inside the White House called McEntee's staff the Rockettes and the Dungeons and Dragons group. And in fact, one of McEntee's assistants had performed at the Radio City Rockettes. So he hired a bunch of hoes with the Riz, and he hired a bunch of theory guys. That sounds like a fucking dream staff to me. So the reason I share this, like, we're going,
a dream political staff, just not if you want to get any real work done. But yeah, if you want to win hearts and minds, then yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, so I won't read the whole thing. It's a very, very long piece. You can see it here. A lot of screenshots, a lot of discussion. It's basically talking about why they're doing this in plain words. Because if you just read the mandate for leadership. It's pretty dry. Like for here, Section 1, taking the reins of government, America's bicentennial, which culminated in July 4th, 1976. Like a lot of this, I'm not going to go to that. Don't worry. But we are going to go into some other things, specifically a video that was released because I wanted to see what the other side's talking about, what the leftists, what the progressives, the liberals are saying, because for us, this just seems like sensible politics. This just seems like, well, for the first time, let's try doing this. Let's do this correctly, but in a radical way.
Yeah.
There is a political solution without a vote. Okay, interesting. Tell me more. I at least want to hear more. To the left, from what I've seen, this is a fascist takeover because we're not supposed to know how to do this. We're supposed to think of like a Superman's going to make everything better, not like get your crazy friends to be the government, which you can do, because I do think there's a competency crisis within the government hiring process right now. Now, I think there's enough charismatic guys that could wine and dine their way into these lonely bitches' hearts who are currently in charge of hiring. You can get in there. You just need to learn everything you can about what just dropped on Netflix. From any lady HR representative, get really into whatever just dropped on Netflix, because whatever it is, they are watching it right now.
Yeah.
That's if they're white. If they're black, I can't help you. I can't help you with what black women do in their spare time. Lonely white women, I got you. I'm your guy. I'll tell you what to do. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Could you offer them a treat if you had a black woman HR? Could you go in and just very blatantly bring like 3 tubs of coconut oil and some coupons and be like, do you want these? I just had extra. I thought I would bring them in. This is for you. I got more with, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the guile has got to be, it's not even guile. You can just be right up with it. I don't know. I don't think I've ever spoken to a black woman in my life.
Judas walk in with a box of dildos. I wasn't
What do
going to
black
finish
women like?
these. I can't finish these.
I can't finish these.
I got extra.
Oh, man. They fucked up my order. They gave me extra. Do you want these?
Give me extra.
At the drive-through dildo shop. Yeah.
We have a little case of whoopsie for them, yippee for me, but I can't finish all these. So, just a quick sidebar here.
You're walking by his desk and they've got a dildo on the desk. And you're like, hey, you gonna eat that?
You're gonna finish that?
Fuck.
Oh yeah, I couldn't. All right, quick sidebar here. We have your wife, literally your betrothed, in the chat saying oof. What the fuck's that about? What's she oofing?
Darling,
she's right beside you.
Hey, what are you oofing about? What? We're live. You oofed in the chat. Dimes wants to know what you're oofing about. She's frozen. She's like, oh shit, they saw the comment. About Aura's post? Aura's post says, cool pick, Judas. Also, you're gay. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. That's what it was. I put this through Midjourney earlier. I was trying to do Karl Brulyov, who's a Russian romanticist painter, but also with Trailer Park Boys. So that's what you get.
It started pretty gay.
Russian romanticist Trailer Park Boys. That's what it is.
It's kind of over.
Nice.
Black women, Aura's post here with a good idea. B women watch BET. Yeah. I wonder if that's just a white thing. Like, do we think black people watch BET? They might not.
Us in this chat right now talking about black women is like future archaeologists trying to figure out if what the fuck was going on in the year 2024.
Can I tell you what black women watch? Actually, because I do know. Because I'm probably the only guy in our scene that actually knows what black people are up to. Black women are watching Club Shay Shay. They're watching the recent interview on Club Shay Shay with Monique. I think that's what all black women are watching right now. And that's going to mean nothing to you. That's just a bunch of sounds I just made with my mouth. You don't know what are those people or those cities? What is that? I'm just letting
Just
you
say
know.
the words. Club Shay Shay.
Yeah.
Hold.
So
Don't let her
okay,
see your cue cards when you go in there.
basically, it's this like a former. I don't watch football, but it's like a former football player who did like a talk show, right? And he got really big because he had Cat Williams on recently, and Cat Williams was just calling out all kinds of black comedians, and now he's become the hot spot for like aggrieved black celebrities to speak quote unquote the truth. But what I think it is, it's a bunch of like people who have problems going to say like, here's my side of the story. So Monique, anyway, no one gives a shit about this.
Yeah.
But like Cat Williams, I love Cat Williams as a comedian, but I'm like, trouble seems to follow him. And according to him, that trouble is just the universe has it out for him. And I'm like, yeah, you always got to watch these people who say that all of the nasty rumors about them being hard to work with or causing problems, all that's just made up. You know what I mean? like the guy who's every girl he's ever dated is crazy. Statistically, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we got here Winkler's Meat making fun of me for listening to black women. Someone has to.
Somebody needs to. We're standing up here. We have to listen to black women. Otherwise, how do we get hired? How do you get a job today without listening to black women? Nice.
Saying he's going long abide that, disavow. Other shows, they actually have like a chat reading section. I just do it when I friggin' feel like it.
All you suckers may not have known, but Judas coin is actually just a Dimes coin ETF.
We're actually also on Twitter too. I should check. So there's a lot of people who tuned into our NJP stream, and that got like really larger numbers. So they're tuning into this, like, okay, let's see them hit it up. Who are they taking down now? It's me just talking about all the black women I listen to. All right, so let's have some fun.
The fun part.
We're gonna watch this.
Let's do it.
There's this.
Nice.
Hello. This is just a video from who are we looking at here? Who's this guy? Second Thought. 1.69 million subscribers. He ain't a nobody. I don't know this guy. Let's just have a look at the comments. Let's lead in with some comments. Let's get a palate cleanser from the last thing. We've heard the good side of what we're trying to accomplish. Let's hear what other people think. From Kodiak Finierd, when fascism comes to America, it'll be wrapped in a flag and carrying a cross. From Sinclair Lewis, don't know who that is. Sounds like a Jewish playwright, I'm going to guess. Here's one from Nathaniel in 5960. The conservative argument, if you don't like it here, leave, is starting to look pretty tempting to me. Here we go. After reviewing my options, I'm convinced my fate is to end up as a statistic in a history book. This guy senses a Holocaust coming. Allowing conservatives to LARP as libertarians is one of the biggest mistakes humanity has ever made. A lot of words there I'm not sure that they understand. Here we go. Hey, Swiss. As a Swiss person, always perplexed how some Americans see their constitution like a holy text that shouldn't change. Well, yeah, this is actually going to come up in the video because I skimmed it before I watched it. You're going to hear a lot of people say, why do you guys care so much about the Constitution? Again, I'm not an American. So let me also add that a little asterisk to everything we're saying. We're Canadian, both Judas and I. What the fuck do we know, right? A couple of Canadians talking about an American thing. I'm trying to figure out how this can apply to Canadian politics because I do think it does. And I do think Canadian politics is such a mess. You probably could make a play at this right now. You could probably get a lot of People's Party of Canada people in the Conservative Party. I don't think Pierre Poilievre knows what's going on. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think their hands are on the wheel, but they're blindfolded. As someone who is not from the USA, I think this goes against basic human rights. I hope this will never be executed. So they're saying that this plan to get your guys hired goes against human rights. Anyway, you detect something that they always do, which is like, I don't know what this is, But this feels like it goes against human rights.
Well, it goes against
You know,
you. It's this whole thing about like if you, I don't know. I don't want to get into a whole thing, but the idea that without having any other structure to evaluate the world, anybody who disagrees with you is like a mortal enemy. Like they must be instantly anti-human rights. They're Hitler. If you're on our side, it's like, well, you're Satan and you're a communist. And it's like you don't have any like rubric for analyzing why this person is against you and why. It's just what do you disagree with me? It's fascism.
Also, let me also state this for the record. I don't detect any of these individuals who are involved in the writing of this document. I don't detect that they want to do anything extreme. I do. Let's be straight. Like if I were in charge of this, I certainly would. I would deport all kinds of motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I would be swinging a sledgehammer all around the place. I would be getting certifiably kooky.
This is the diversity angle. If you want to just take advice, follow the lead of the global South. Look at South America, Africa, Asia, India, anywhere in the world where these noble savages live. What do they do when they have a group of people who disagree with their government and are exploiting their people? Do they enshrine them or do they deport them and possibly shoot a lot of them? And we're not even going to shoot them. That's horrible. We wouldn't do that. We just want to get rid of them. So like the Ugandan angle here, you know what I mean? Like the League of African Nations angle is round them up in trucks and ship them back across from whence they came.
Well, also, if it were up to me, and this is where you'd get pissed off at me, I'm sure, is that I would take the modern monetary theory angle. I would say I'm going to open the credit spigots over quantum computing and renewable, like all the new developing tech, and I would give infinite credit to them, and I would just abolish the welfare state. And I'm just going to look away for 5 years, and whatever happens, happens. I'm going to make every mayor president of the state. Like, I'm just going to leave it up to you.
I don't want to rehash the whole fight, but I just want to point out that is the welfare state. It's just instead of for N-word, it's for quantum computing scientists.
Yes, welfare for quantum computing scientists, I think, is substantially better than N people.
Punching meal tickets for CERN in Switzerland. Essentially.
And those guys are easy to keep happy. You ever tried to like feed a scientist? They eat like fucking granola and shit.
Hot Cheetos.
If you give like the welfare state that all that consumer spending, nerds don't do that. They need very little to be happy. This is a good deal no matter how you slice it. We're not going to do this over
They're going to put it all into shitty crypto pump and dump schemes.
Yeah. Nerds do suck, don't they? Their best and brightest are. I saw this one clip on Lex Friedman where like this established like a particle physicist was there saying how he can't watch any movies from 1995.
I saw that. Like, you faggot. What's wrong with you?
You're too slow. I don't like it. It's not like the brightest minds in that field is the guy like watching a movie while holding up his phone and doing a fucking browser game while watching it. Like it's boring.
Oh no.
All right, so we're gonna watch this. Okay, here we go. Mandate for Leadership: The Conservative Promise. The New Fascist Playbook is the title.
Give the president vastly more power, destroy bureaucracy, root out woke propaganda, appoint vetted far-right freedom fighters at every level of government, and have it all ready to implement the day the next conservative president is elected. Which they assume will be 2025, hence the name. Despite Trump obviously being the favorite, the plan is not dependent on any particular candidate winning, but can be implemented with any figurehead at the...
Ah, shit.
Can you smell the Cheetos?
On him? Yeah, we haven't seen this guy yet, but I'm not liking what I'm hearing from this voice.
Although also, Trump is the favorite, he's not dependent on any particular candidate.
This episode is made possible. The man who's so confident Republican in the Senate.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Fucking gay.
And of course, the God Emperor himself, the man who's so confident that he won't even show up for debates.
Trump. Who the
Donald
fuck is
Trump.
That looks like a
Who
young Joe Biden. That's a young Joe Biden.
The fuck? Did they pull some AI shit for the? Like, just get a picture of Trump. Who the fuck is that guy?
The audacity of getting a different guy.
It's not even Trump. It's just a different orange guy.
Because every time you see these videos, I think when you see good production value on these videos, you're thinking, oh, a team must have done this. No, no, no. One guy probably
Loser.
did this.
You know what? Back to my point before. This guy who made this is a NEET. He does this full time. Like, we have to schedule pretty tightly, to be honest, between our families and our jobs to do this fucking stream and do our show. This faggot probably spent 12 days on this video. He probably spent a month on this video.
He doesn't have a censor to non help him produce this stuff at top notch
correct.
quality. Check out our YouTube, check out our Odyssey. All right.
And in the blue corner, we've got Oprah's spiritual advisor, Hassan's uncle, the chairman of a gelato company, and the reigning champion, the man who may or may not remember how he got there, Joe Biden. Yes, it's
so again, this is the narrative that's sweeping the nation, that even Joe Biden sucks. No one likes Joe Biden. And I don't know if you saw this recently. I tried to confirm this, but I wasn't able to. He apparently during a speech mentioned he had recently met a French president who hasn't been president in like 30 years or something, or died recently.
Wow.
Like his dementia, like
He's gone.
flubs aside, speaking, inconsistencies aside, he's now misremembering people he met. So anyway,
There was an article just today or yesterday where they were asking him about some of this stuff, and then he couldn't. They said that he can't be charged because of the documents, the classified documents he had, because during the interview he didn't even know what years he was president, and he didn't remember like people's names and stuff. So they're like, well, look, we can't charge this guy. He clearly is too old and has dementia. So that's their excuse essentially for not charging him.
See, this is where it would actually pay to have black people involved, because they have no problem bullying old white people with dementia. Like they would throw him in jail. They'd break his knees. They'd fucking whip him with a belt.
They go to change his bedpan and they're like hitting him with it, and they flip his bed onto the floor. Yeah.
Taking a politician to a black site is just putting him in a room with black people.
Conservative black site is actually just a nursing home with a black staff. Oh no.
Yes.
really shaping up to be a once-in-a-lifetime election season, and as always, a life-and-death struggle for democracy and the very soul of the nation.
Also, he says that almost sarcastically. That is what he's saying, though. He is calling this a fascist coup overthrow.
Yeah.
As they all seem to be these days, despite very few differences in Republican and Democratic governance. But there is one thing.
Gay. Oh my God.
There he is.
Busted teeth. Little fucking.
Those aren't busted teeth.
Broccoli haircut. You got the top two buttons undone on your women's sweater, and you don't have an undershirt. Jesus Christ. And what's
broccoli hair, but with Jerry curls.
I think it's just failed broccoli. I think he was trying to do broccoli and he wound up with Jerry curls.
You can tell a lot from a streamer by what they strategically place on their shelves behind them. So what do we got here? A bunch of lenses.
Yeah.
Cameras.
Artifact.
A lot. I think if you're using a camera, it shouldn't be pointed at other camera accoutrements.
It's a little bit weird.
I would take Funko Pops over this.
I
don't see any.
Also,
rooms. It's a single man.
It's a little off topic, but these YouTube creators, tell me if I'm wrong, this is really like 2016. The whole overdone voiceover and the set or green screen and the whole thing. And it's like, I thought we're going for authenticity now. I thought it's 2024 and everything's fake. Like this is like you're leaning into this is clearly a set. You know what I mean?
My thing is, I thought about this at various points about like us getting a set, getting on camera, because we could do it. We could get a space. We have a few options for doing that, but I'm like, that seems very fake and gay.
Yeah.
I'm like, what I would rather do is invest in getting a good camera and just mixing up the space, because that's really the benefit to the technology is you could get good, decent audio and video anywhere. So this idea of everyone getting the exact same purple and pink light and just saying, I need a set. Let me go to the set store you go on Amazon, there's probably like a beginner set items with like, oh, here's the right type of ficus, and here's the light,
Well,
you know.
and we've said it before. Like, I think it was a couple of years ago. John Talley had sent out a voice message that was him on his porch, and you could hear crickets and like the stream in the background. And we've been saying for the longest time that we should do a show like by the campfire. And obviously, there's guys that do this now. Sometimes it's a little bit forced, but it's not about, like, obviously there's a demographic consideration and you want to get the right viewership and everything. But I mean, if you want authenticity, you're probably on the wrong foot already if you're going to the set store and buying a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
if you
we were
should
to
look,
do it,
here's the thing: if you're worth listening to, you probably already have a living room that looks cool enough to do this. And you and I've been in your living room. You and I both have living rooms that are cool enough that we could just record in them. So
like right now, I'm in my basement in like my desktop office, but also my home gym is all around me. So there's a heavy bag hanging right in front of me and a fucking half rack with a fucking bar on it. I'm like, yeah, this is good enough for a set. Why
It's
not
good enough.
this? Fuck it. Every place is rigged for audio in 2024. That's
Yeah.
what year it is, right? Yeah. So if we were to do, we would like do it from the woods. That's how I would do it. Anyway,
Yes,
this sucks. This guy, I don't like him.
a gay man.
He is a bummer.
That actually does make this election cycle a bit different. Conservatives have been lurching towards fascism for years, with the Democrats not far behind.
So for the record, everyone's lurching towards fascism.
So what are you then? Are you a anarchist? Oh, so what? Oh, you like kids? All right.
Yeah. Oh, so you're a gay rapist. Because that's the headline. Put that up in lights for this election. You're either a fascist or a gay rapist.
Yeah, take your pick.
Though historically they've been a little more subtle about it. But recently, the American right has dropped a hot new single, Project 2025. If you thought they were bad before, just wait till you get a load of this. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the new conservative plan to seize total control.
That's also like a millennial comment. Like, it dropped a new single. Like, I can just hear our Zoomer audience saying, like, a millennial mouth said that. People drop singles.
And what it means for the future of the country. Brace yourself. Okay, Project 2025. What is it? Spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025 is a massive 920-page
Really blurred visuals right there, by the way. Don't know why.
conservative manifesto detailing how they intend to give the president vastly more power, destroy bureaucracy, root out woke propaganda, appoint vetted far-right freedom fighters at every level of government, and have it all ready to implement the day the next conservative president is elected. Which they assume.
Now, that all sounds really cool, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that right there. Yep. Got the bureaucracy. And also, the
Also-
one thing. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
I was gonna say, like, it's so funny to criticize all of this because it's all in response to the Democrats having already done this for generations, or every party having done it. So what they're doing is they're just putting the procedure out publicly and saying, hey, you know, the lines are empty here. We need people to come and join us in this process. This extra political process that's been going on for generations already. We need to turn it over onto our side. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, they made this thing up in order to corrupt democracy. No, this is how your fucking democracy has been working for a very long time. How can you not see this?
Yeah. Let's keep going with this.
Will be 2025, hence the name. Despite Trump obviously being the favorite, the plan is not dependent on any particular candidate winning, but can be implemented with any figurehead at the reins, who will become essentially completely unaccountable. God Emperor was supposed to be a joke, but here we are. You may have seen this book floating around online, The Mandate for Leadership. This is what most people assume Project 2025 to be, but this is actually just one part of a much larger conservative master plan. Project 2025 has 4 core pillars. First, the policy, as outlined in the 920-page document. This is where all the heinous and frankly disturbing policy proposals live,
And again, if you actually read this, the policy proposals are just like, well, let's roll back certain, like they would think that Republicans want to destroy national parks when it seems to be only conservatives that give a shit about national parks. Because if you ask any liberal or leftist, the national parks is where you're supposed to park all the illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
We even said like Pierre Poilievre, just to give a Canadian context to what I'm talking about, Pierre Poilievre recently said that he doesn't believe that immigration is to blame for the current housing crisis because he said we have so much land all over the place.
That's so fucking stupid.
Like it would take the
Did he
rest of the
say that?
evening to yes,
That's
as
oh
of
my god.
today.
I'm so mad. I fucking hate that guy. I was already done with him, but Jesus, that's the worst.
We got so much. Well, first of all, the availability of land has nothing to do with the current availability of houses. You
Correct.
fucking lunatic. Also, you can't just fill. Okay, you fill the Arctic with people. Like it. There's many different layers to why that's wrong.
Yeah, it's
But
also
if you
it's
ask,
also your own government that prevents us from building in most of those places. Like if you want to give us some fucking crown land and let us build, do it. But you're the one who's chasing us down and preventing us. You know, like that's
here's a good
that's
shit testing.
infuriating to hear him say that. You know, it's like you were saying on the previous show. The one thing that you can't stand is not when politicians lie, but when they say, "Well, this isn't my fault. What can I do? What can I do?" And it's like, Polyev at
Like, what do you expect me to do? I want to do it, but the rest of the government won't let me. It's the biggest crock of shit. So we'll just keep going with this. I was going to make a point, but I forget it.
Worry, we'll look at some of those in a bit. 2, the personnel database, which has been described as the conservative LinkedIn, as if LinkedIn wasn't cringe enough already. This will be a repository for conservative resumes from people across all sectors and from all walks of life, to be selected as needed to staff positions in every level of government, at both the federal and state level. 3, training. They've got a new online institute, basically PragerU, but for people who like to wear poorly tailored suits and fantasize about rolling back environmental regulations.
Poorly tailored suits compared to whatever the fuck it is
yeah,
you're
dude,
wearing.
just look in the mirror. You can tell from the way he talks that he thinks he's extremely erudite and classy and sexy. Look at his eye right now. Look at him looking in the camera.
Yeah.
He's so fucking proud of himself.
Let me just say this. To take care of the environment, to give a shit about the environment, you need to have a properly developed disgust reflex. And that is more likely to be found in people on the right, people on the far right, even in conservatives. You have to be disgusted by things. You have to be disgusted by people's behaviors. So what's an interesting tactic is to go to your average lib and show them or tell them about the Ganges River in India, what the Indian people have done to their holiest river.
Yeah.
Polluted it with shit, with piss, with dead bodies, with, there's tourists that go to the Ganges because it's supposed to be this holy place and they bathe in it. They come back with fucking botulism. They come back with fucking lymphoma. But so like, are you disgusted by that? If so, why? Because you have to be disgusted with the Indian people and their behavior. But if they can't say that, if you can't be disgusted at Indians for polluting this river, then they will probably have no issue with doing that to every single national park if it meant bringing Indians there. They would sacrifice America's pristine landscape for the fucking dejected biomass of the world.
Now,
so don't fucking talk to me about how they're the environmentalists.
All totally true. All true. Also, definitely he's probably a little bit right, because the Republican Party does have a history of siding with big pharma and ag and the banks and tech companies, and they really the Democratic Party absolutely have been destroying everything, but I mean, I can't think of a time since Teddy Roosevelt that they actually anybody else took care of it. So
I can think of at least a Teddy Roosevelt.
But that was 100 years ago.
I know, but at least there was a guy 100 years ago. Like everyone else, they're trying to elect the next Huey Long or something. It's going to be like, just pave it over for more apartment buildings. You can live like it's fucking, what is that?
Yeah,
BioShock Infinite.
Right. Huey Long is just a BioShock character, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, for every man a fountain of cum. Go to San Francisco. Ask if they vote for that guy.
They will.
Huey Long running on the cum ticket.
The bipartisan vote, the cum ticket.
The bipartisan gay vote, the cum vote. Don't you go to like just like a gay club and like getting their policy positions? It's like, so are you for or against cum? For, very for. Yes, it's all cum related policies.
You probably could win on a cum ticket in San Francisco. That's true. Fuck. God damn.
I tell you what, that's a white vote I don't want. Bazinga, let's get going.
This training program will create willing and able soldiers to serve on the front lines in the war on the woke cabal of the deep state. And finally, 4. The 180-day playbook, a step-by-step guide for the new conservative emperor to systematically implement the policies listed in the manifesto. Think IKEA assembly instructions, but for fascism.
Okay, let me just say there, you don't need to give an analogy for a playbook.
Yeah.
A playbook is what it is. You don't need to say.
Also, it's not actually a playbook. Like saying playbook is a metaphor already, because it's not actually a playbook, because it's not an NFL game, right?
You don't need to do an analogy
You're
for
using
something everybody
an analogy
knows.
to explain the metaphor. You fucking faggot. Jesus.
It's like a table. Think a chair that you can have sexy times on.
You know, he's describing a bed. A bed is like a table. You think of a table. Table's like a chair. Fucking.
Let's go.
These 4 pillars are the key components of the project, and taken together, they offer a pretty comprehensive vision for the dystopian future the right hopes to usher in. It's all pretty alarming, but
Why is it alarming? The alarming part is that it is a plan.
Yeah.
Because you're not supposed to have a plan. If you're a populist, if you're a conservative, if you're far right, you're not even supposed to plan. That's why they're scared, because you got everything else buttoned up. So let's skip ahead.
in their words, they want to 1. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. 2. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. 3. Defend our nation's borders and bounty against global threats. And 4. Secure our God-given individual rights to live freely. What our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. Okay, you can probably already see where some of this is going, but let's start.
You're getting chills right now, I assume. You want to protect your child. Because if there's one thing that I still don't like, and it's not a huge issue, but it's that even the 2025 mandate for leadership, they mentioned the word woke in there. The word woke is still being used a lot. And I'm not convinced that these authors really know what woke is. I don't think they have the balls to really say what it truly is. They might say like cultural Marxism, but even that's gets people rolling their eyes these days. And also, what we know as woke is kind of on its way out. They're not putting the woke away entirely because it's just going to take another shape. But I don't know if you've heard this, but Bud Light has a new spokesperson. You hear
No,
about
I
this? Shane Gillis.
No way. Is it actually?
Yeah,
They
they got fucking.
that's brilliant for both of them.
They got the young bull.
That's
in the mix.
wild. Oh man.
The guy who goes on Joe Rogan and drinks 25 Bud Lights.
You know what? That's really exciting, to be honest, because I can imagine him just constantly taking the piss. But also, that's very clever. Like, as much as I hate Budweiser right now, good for them for actually getting Shane Gillis. Damn.
Yeah.
That's shocking to me.
You know what? Like, I hate to say it, this will sound mean, but it's not. Let me just here quickly. Yeah. Shane Gillis signs partner. He's their partner now. He's got fucking photos of him. Look at him at their fucking brewery. Just loving it, just having a grand
They
old time.
must have fired a lot of people in management up there and then hired somebody who knew what they were doing. I honestly think that's a master stroke, partnering with Shane Gillis and
But-
somehow convincing him to actually do it too.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know
but
how much did they pay him.
this is a sea change, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
they're
He
admitting
went from tranny faggot shit to literally Shane Gillis.
to
I remember
Shane Gillis.
In the intermittent period, they were trying to do ads with like F-150s and fucking wild horses and the planes and shit. So
Yeah, it's also the daringness to finally hire an alcoholic to be a spokesperson for a liquor brand.
Yeah, now's the time.
Like, just hiring a guy, it's like, I drink this every single day.
I'm always
And
drinking.
I
Start at 11 o'clock. Yeah.
yeah. Like, you've never just seen, like, a guy who like, fucking Ric Flair selling, like, vodka or something. Ric Flair, who hasn't been sober in, like, 40 years. Anyway, the argument was that this woke phenomena is disintegrating and has been for some time, but which isn't to say that they're not gonna keep pushing gay stuff. They're not gonna be pushing feminist stuff. They're not gonna be pushing all the components of what wokeness was. But it's just, I guess I think gay people are just gonna, and tranniness. I think that's what they're talking about. Like, tranny stuff is falling out of favor. That's
Good.
my prediction. And just to reiterate my prediction, which we've been making for a while, transgenderism is going to get rolled back and blamed on white people. So get ready for that. We're going to be caught holding the bag for this entire transgenderism thing, despite the stats showing that there's more transgenderism than black community. Doesn't matter. Once it becomes unpopular, it's going to be blamed on like white people for like pushing it on minorities and things like that. So get ready for that. The worst is yet to come with that. Anyway.
Start with the boring stuff. The nuts and bolts of manipulating the federal government to serve the right. A lot of this project centers around gutting what's called the administrative state. This is stuff like the EPA, FEMA, HUD, the Fed, stuff like that. The humdrum logistical stuff that nonetheless often plays an important role.
I guess we take for granted sometimes that we know that these departments exist. Like, I don't know, like you imagine his audience is like, there's this thing called the administrative state. You might have heard of it. The Department of Education sounds really boring. Like, that's the government. that's all the
Yeah.
stuff.
What did you think we're talking about when we say the government?
But like, I don't know, like, you know, again, we take it for granted that people know that shit, but I don't think, maybe a lot of people don't, especially younger generation. I don't know.
I don't know who the audience is for this, to be honest. This guy
It's
looks
gotta-
younger than us, first of all. And it
Yeah.
sounds like he's talking down to a generation that I don't understand. I honestly can't imagine a person watching this and not laughing at him right now. So I don't really
Department of
understand.
Education. Think a department, but for education.
Or
Right.
sometimes not. Looking at you,
Or
DHS.
sometimes not.
There's
Like,
a lot
he's-
of this
he's
stuff.
just pure Reddit.
He sucks.
It's crazy.
This
I
guy
would
sucks
look.
so
You
much.
told me that this was like a college humor parody of like gay Reddit shit. I would believe you. I'm a little bit in disbelief right now.
So I'm just calling attention to a comment I missed from Auro's post. Shane rolling in the cum cash. Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just doing John drops now. Just checking the Odyssey chat now. Okay,
None.
so let's keep going.
Stuff. So much so that it's often called the fourth branch of government, and it deals with the day-to-day operations of the country, everything from transportation to environmental regulations, food and water safety, and so on. Most of these agencies are created when a law is passed that makes people think, there really should be a group of people responsible for making sure food is safe for consumption, or whatever. The government slaps together an elite team of nerds, that is to say,
So I could just hear the Sunflower Society in the back of my head yelling at me for not having a 1.5 speed. My bad, guys.
subject matter experts, people who actually know what they're talking about, and there you go, you've got the FDA. The FDA then takes over the task.
So he's describing like, okay, what's a department? It's just subject matter experts. Never describes what a subject matter expert is.
It's also funny because he's describing the way in which it's called the fourth branch of government, which is to say it's making an end run around the Constitution on the way that the U.S. government is supposed to work, that these people are unelected and are not held to account to anybody after the law is passed. There's no way to get rid of them. There's no way to hold them accountable. And that they have direct control over very narrow things that nobody else can see. So they're kind of doing this in the back room. He's essentially describing corruption. But he's saying like, well, this is just it's just necessary, you guys. No, literally what you're describing is a framework for corruption and embezzlement of public funds. And obviously we want to remove this. Like the FDA should be fucking destroyed completely. Like,
and also the idea that you will notice this in the video. He keeps mentioning subject matter experts, and never like, do I go to school to be a subject matter expert? Is that a class I take, or is it
there a test to see how much of an expert you are on a subject?
Or are you just someone who runs a popular blog? Because that technically is a subject matter expert.
Yeah, we're subject matter experts on how much of a fucking loser you are.
Yeah, I'm a subject matter expert on getting pussy.
Damn right.
Put me in the department of bitches.
Yep.
I said that as a joke, but that's actually what I would like.
Also true.
And that I haven't checked the mandate for leadership, but that might be a position that is opening up soon.
We should
Of
apply for
enforcement.
it. Yeah.
All right, here's another one from Oros. He's just saying universal issue with these types is they think that slapping the expert label on somebody somehow makes them devoid of any bias. True.
Whatever regulations they come up with in administrative courts. But this is all really boring. All you need to know is that a lot fewer people die because the FDA exists, and we have fewer polluted rivers and extinct species because the EPA exists.
Wrong.
Wrong.
All false. Just totally fucking false. This is just you parroting shit that you read on Reddit. Source? Can I get a source, please? Can I get a source that the FDA saves lives? Guess what? They fucking don't. They're responsible for much more death than they actually prevent.
The best part is there's so many books written by liberals that explore the history of these departments, of the FDA specifically, that about all the rotten shit they've done, all like, you could, but they will always contextualize it with race relations. It's like, oh, the FDA was shady, but it was only to black people. And that's how they're allowed to talk about it. But it's no, every one of these departments has a long history of shady business and fucking over the people because it gets filled with just psychopaths.
Yeah.
Conservatives don't really like rules in general, especially rules that...
Okay, sorry, I just had to...
Oh my God. Conservatives don't like rules. The problem with conservatives is they don't like rules. No, you fucking degenerate. We are literally the only people who remember there are rules.
Look, if there's one thing conservatives can get pegged with, it's liking too many rules. It's being too litigious with what they want to do. It's like, I want to do this, but I got to follow the rules. I can't do it. That blows my mind. Anyway, it sounds like a stupid aside, but it does blow my mind how many people on the left just have like the wrong idea about what conservatives are. Because you'll hear simultaneously they like rules and hate rules. I'm like, you're just making it up at this point.
Look, you're a weird theory cell white guy who's terminally online, and you're mad at conservatives because they...
Yeah, but I have a podcast.
No, I'm talking to this guy. No, this is my point. That's my point. You're terminally online white theory cell, but you're really mad because conservatives just hate rules. Hold on a second. No. It's you just turn the sheet the other way around. You're looking at it upside down, my friend. You're a conservative. You're one of us. You dumb faggot. Come on over.
There's no question in my mind that the conservatives would try and recruit this guy. Like, actually,
protect the environment or poor people.
The purpose of Project 2025 is to recruit this man.
To recruit the sweater guy, the guys who are wearing a sweater and no shirt underneath, just a sweater. The most uncomfortable attire you can imagine.
So these agencies need to go. It's not good enough that the president can appoint the heads of these admin agencies. For example, Trump appointing a fossil fuel executive to head the EPA. No, conservatives want complete power over everyone in these agencies. Because right now, the subject matter experts at, say, the EPA are not beholden to politics. They just come to work and try to figure out how to protect snails or something.
I cannot imagine a more Reddit comment than that. It's like they're just people who heckin' love what it is that they do. They want to go to work and bring their lunch pails in, and they just want to protect. If you just like a thing, you want to protect that thing.
Of the argument here centers around whether these agencies are constitutional. Conservatives like to claim that since the Constitution didn't explicitly say federal agencies like these were part of their master plan, they're government overreach and should be dismantled. Historically, federal courts have disagreed with this assessment, so until now, we can rest assured that our milk has been pasteurized and our water isn't contaminated with lead.
Fuck pasteurized milk, and let's reopen the books on lead in the water.
Let's do it.
By the way,
you're gonna tell me I can't have lead in my water? Maybe I want to get a little bit whacked this weekend with my lead water. Fuck off, gay.
Yeah, I'm just saying open the books.
But here's the thing with the whole constitutionality argument. Who cares? Most countries around the world scrap their constitutions entirely.
Do I smell an execution for treason? Out comes the bag.
Here's the thing about the Constitution. Who gives a shit? But this is something that we were seeing in the comments as we were leading in this video, that I think this sits at the center of a lot of their critique, which is that and we'll get to this in the video. It's like, so the Constitution says it. Who gives a shit about the Constitution? It's old. And there was a story that was circulating today. It was out of Hawaii. Let me see if I can find this. basically Hawaii was trying to pass a bill. They were actually challenging the Constitution as well, and they quoted The Wire in their statement from season 4 of The Wire, saying that that's the thing about the old days. The old days, which is an argument in favor of scrapping Constitution because it's old.
Yeah.
That to me, that doesn't get talked about a lot, but that is simmering beneath the surface of a lot of liberals and leftists. They feel like they can't say it, but they really do want to just destroy it comes from the Second Amendment stuff. Like they're like, why do we even have a Second Amendment? Let's just challenge that. But it's everything.
And recall only a minute ago, even at one time speed, he said conservatives just hate rules. It's like, no, we have this rule book that was set down by our ancestors, which we've been trying desperately to follow for hundreds of years. And you're the one who says, throw the rule book out. Like, fuck, man.
Let me switch over here. Here's ABC News. Hawaii's High Court cites the of U.S. Supreme Court decision that expanded gun rights. A ruling Hawaii court saying that a man can be prosecuted for carrying a gun in public without a permit uses a pop culture reference in an apparent rebuke of the entire Supreme Court decision that expanded gun rights nationwide. So they're just challenging, like, why do you care about? It's almost like, why do you care about something that happened yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's old.
Yeah.
It's not relevant right now.
So it's black person logic.
Yeah.
When the people decide they're no longer relevant or they need to be overhauled. Only the United States has this weird reverence for the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. Part of that is due to the relatively short history of the country. The US has only really existed for a couple hundred years. When you look around the world,
challenge this very briefly. There's a lot of great American historians in our scene. We got a lot of America guys. A lot of guys that are very knowledgeable about the Civil War. So, we know the old Glory Club, they're big into American history. But I just want to say for the record, there's a lot of countries in the world that are newer than America too. And a lot of them love refreshing their constitution every 2 years.
Yeah.
A lot of tin pot republics, a lot of banana republics, a lot of dictatorships, they love just getting new constitutions that fits whatever the fuck it is that they want to do.
Whatever their pet project is that year. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, we refresh it for what we need at the time. It's like whoever is rewriting it. Yeah.
And see some of your peer nations have a couple thousand years of history, you might feel the need to mythologize your past just a little bit to make your nation seem special. The Founding Fathers...
I would say that I don't think any nation in North America, on the North American continent, is much older. And I would hazard to say that a lot of what we know as nations in South America are the same.
He's also...
yeah.
Never mind the timeline. He's just describing the way that nations are formed. He's like, yeah, so what? A whole bunch of, states and groups get together and they mythologize a little bit about their past. And over the next few hundred years, that makes them feel more together. So what? Who cares? Like, that's all of human history. That's
just described a nation.
That's just nations. You're just describing nations. So what you're saying is we should be post-national and we should just have laws that represent whatever you think today, this morning. This is
been elevated to godlike status. Especially among conservatives. But the truth is, they were a bunch of frat boys. Okay, not all of them. Ben Franklin was 70 and Washington was 44. But a lot of them, dear viewer, are younger than you are right now. Alexander Hamilton...
And this is actually a point in favor of the 2025 mandate for leadership. The Founding Fathers were a bunch of 25-year-old frat guys.
Bunch of dudes. Dudes rocking.
Dudes rocking, guys being fellas.
Yeah.
So don't think for a minute that you don't belong at the levers of power, you listening to this right now.
And look, just because they made the rules doesn't mean they followed them. Am I right?
Hell yes.
Hell yeah.
By the way, this might just be me because I'm always picking on the edges of a relapse, but they were all alcoholics and they seem to have done a pretty good job. So don't be afraid of being a day drinker when you're doing this either.
I'm going to call your wife after this.
Yeah, well, do you want me to be a great man or not? Do you want to stop the mass? Do you want to stop all these Indians from getting here?
I just want to win, man, whatever it takes.
Well, I'm going to start waking up with a shot because that's the only way to get things done. It was good enough for Ben Franklin.
Hamilton, the one with the annoying fan club, he was 21, and he wasn't even the youngest. Anyway, the point is, when you look at historical events without the roast
Washington was fucking 12. Oh.
of mythology, you see a bunch of normal people just kind of making it up as they go along. It's normal that things change over the centuries. What's considered constitutional should reflect the values and norms of the time.
That's actually a great argument for me doing whatever insane shit that I want, by the way.
Correct.
They're just making it up. Okay, so when we take charge, we should deport every person that we don't like. Why not? Like, according to you, that's the foundation of America. It's whatever you need to do, because the only thing stopping us from doing that is probably the fucking Constitution, if we're being honest. The only thing that's keeping a lid on us all of us behaving like sociopaths right now is that Constitution. So hey, maybe he's got a good point.
Yeah. Maybe we
The
throw
only-
the
the
Bill of
only
Rights
thing
out too. Maybe we don't need that.
Yeah. Throw that away. See how fast slavery comes back just for fun. We don't even need them.
We don't need it.
We're just gonna do it. Crypto slavery. That happens day 2.
That little tangent aside, let's get back to the goals of Project 2025. We talked about the boring stuff, wanting to gut the administrative state, but what else is in there? It's 920 pages after all, they've got to have some other ideas. Well, a lot of it is what you might expect. As Trump stated on numerous occasions, they want to kick the cultural Marxists out of the Department of Education, demolish the deep state, and combat woke ideology at all levels of government. They plan to do this by making extensive use of Schedule F, a piece of legislation established at the federal level by Trump, which allows the president to fire federal government officials at will, presumably for not sufficiently bending the knee. The project calls for an executive branch with essentially unchecked power, making the president basically unaccountable to Congress. They want to dismantle.
Great. I just want to pause and say I like that. And people might push back and say, "Oh, you wouldn't like that if that was used against you." I know it's being used against people I hate.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me. If it's used again, we'll deal with the rest later. But for now, this is how you can get a wild monarch in.
Yeah.
Sure.
Two things about that. One thing, he's like, oh, well, this gives the president the ability to unilaterally fire people from government departments, essentially allowing him to be unaccountable to Congress. Okay, well, how did the department get there? Was it perhaps Congress being unaccountable to the president? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. You fucking idiot. The other thing was, and I totally forgot. I'll remember it later. But yeah, that one thing was good enough. That's all you need.
Sorry, just quoting Behold here, it says Franklin was a disgusting freak. I had heard the same, but I'm not deep on my Franklin lore.
Dismantle the liberal system to build one more favorable to conservatives. That means scrapping environmental protections, moving away from globalism.
And he shows an image of windmills there. Here's the funny thing about that. I think everyone is on the same page that windmills suck. Am I correct in thinking, like,
You're
it
wrong.
used to be that
There's nothing good about them, and it's been proven, and both sides agree. The only people who still hold on to windmills are terminally online Redditors who aren't actually up to date on the policy and where it's at. Yeah, because even the left doesn't support windmills. Like the political left that actually has money in their pockets and actually does things, they don't support windmills anymore either. So
yeah, windmills is something that I think they want us to forget about.
yes,
But,
that's the
like,
stage we're at, is forget about windmills.
Everyone, because my thing was, in Ontario where we live, we would always drive by and see windmills always just not operating.
Yeah,
on
I
windy-
still
like, they're
drive by
just-
them. Where I am, I still see them all the time, and they're usually not operating. Some of them have been dismantled, actually. Yeah.
Now, I remember when people said that windmills would lead to all these dead birds, and to make of that, I'm like, oh, maybe. But so do skyscrapers. But even liberals are saying, like, oh shit, this dead bird problem it's a big problem.
I remembered something. The other thing I wanted to say, and now I'm starting to wonder, because this guy, like, he's so fucking wrong. He has 1.6 million viewers, right, or like subscribers. He's a fairly big channel. How much of this is actually just him being gay, and how much of it is maybe part of an op? Because he's doing stuff like a minute ago, and this is a couple of times now he's done this in this video, where he says, leading question, what do you think, viewer? What do you think was in it? Well, it is exactly what you would expect. I forget what you call that, but he's planting the thought in your head. He's not saying, here's what it says. He's saying, well, what is inside it? It is exactly the bad thing that you already thought was inside it.
Yeah.
Because you're on my side.
And then
you
he
me are
says a little
smart,
bit,
we're
and then
together
goes-
in this. It's like the
and then goes,
Colbert
it's
Report
bull.
shit.
I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of it, but just understand it's what you think it is.
Exactly. It's exactly what you think. Am I going to tell you what that is? No. Suffice to say, it's bad and you don't like it. Anyways, next topic. And he just keeps this is Colbert level shit.
Yeah, and you've noticed that even Jon Stewart is being brought back to the Daily Show, and I'm very curious to see how that goes, because like you're dusting the cobwebs off that motherfucker, good old John Leibowitz, and I'm like, I don't think there's an audience for him anymore. I think BreadTube had like the audience you want, and BreadTube is fucking dead. I don't think your audience has anywhere to go. I think they're watching Hassan Piker, who's losing his mind for Palestine, and interviewing terrorists. I'm like, I don't think you got a guy. Their guy is Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is like one of the most popular broadcasters in America, maybe the most popular in America currently, maybe one of the most popular of all time, if we're talking about just raw numbers here.
Yeah.
Whether or not you like him.
Yep.
That's just what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So we know our guy.
Fact.
Who's your Tucker Carlson? Is it Jon Stewart? That's a fucking joke.
Nothing. You got nothing. Because that comes from popularity. You can't astroturf that shit. And they haven't had anybody who wasn't astroturfed in like 15 years. So
Yeah. All right, so continue with this.
Punishing corporations for DEI language, which is funny because it sounds like they actually think these corporations genuinely believe their DEI statements. They want to escalate tensions with China by ending economic engagement entirely, crack down on immigration, criminalize LGBT expression. They claim that any talk of gender identity, and so on is pornography and should be banned, and has no First Amendment protections. They want to scrap.
Gay people are incapable of discussing their sexuality unless it's two children.
Yeah.
That's it. Like if you guys wanted to read storybooks to seniors, I think we'd be okay with that because seniors would just call you queer. Well, no, the seniors would like push back.
Conservatives want to lock gays up because they think they're dangerous. I mean, that's not a dunk. Yes, you should lock gays up. Gays are dangerous. They should not be allowed to walk freely in our society.
Well, and this is us talking here. We don't represent the conservative establishment. We don't represent the average blazer. Just so we're clear, but I do want to establish that yes, I do want to criminalize all gay speech.
Yeah.
Yes, if you walk around with a gay flag as a cape, I want the police to arrest you.
Yes, you should actually be arrested and taken to prison for that. Yeah.
I want you to be arrested by a special police force that we've installed that look like English bobbies.
They look really goofy, so people laugh at you as you're getting arrested.
Yeah, and it's a real Benny Hill situation. They're all chasing you around in a line, and
perfect.
We pay a couple of them extra to fall down, and their pants fall down. It's a when we lock up the gays, it's going to be really whimsical. Kids are going to love it. You can watch it with the whole family.
Yep.
Labor discrimination policies. Quote, maintain a biblically based, social science reinforced definition of family, meaning scrap protections for same-sex marriage. And plan to, quote, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, unless, of course, you're one of the aforementioned groups they intend to criminalize out of existence.
Correct.
Yes.
Wonderful. Beautiful. I
think gays hurt freedom. I think illegal immigrants hurt freedom. He's like, can you believe they said that? Yeah, I say it. I'm saying it right now. It makes sense to more people than you think. That's a great frame to pause on.
In that vein, to touch very briefly on their views on pornography, if you read the text, they basically just mean any discussion of gender, abortion, or any identity other than straight and cisgender. They want all instances of this kind of language stripped from society.
Nice.
While it's a little cliche to compare the conservatives to Nazis, you know what books were the first to be burned? Which institutions were the first to be shuttered? Books on gender and sexuality, and institutions that studied these topics.
Yeah, they burned all the weird pedophile shit that was being pumped out by
That's propaganda from our side, dumbass. That's the stuff.
That's something we tell our moms to get them on our side, you fucking freak. Do you know what the Nazis burned first? All this weird trans shit that they're trying to get your kids to read.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Like, honestly, this is the guy who hasn't gotten the memo. This is the guy who hasn't heard that no one likes this trans shit anymore. No one is energized by it. Everyone is just openly admitting that it's weird. I always point to that tweet I saw by some lady, but she was saying that you realize that none of us actually think trans women are women. We're just being polite.
Yeah.
And I think that like snapped the neck of so many trannies who saw that tweet.
Right.
Because it just affirmed the truth. It's the truth. Like, we're just kind of being nice. And maybe we're not going to be nice anymore. We're just going to say it's weird because it is, and bye.
And of course, because real women are not only capable, but excellent at maintaining appearances, being polite, reading the room normally, which is what trannies cannot do, because trannies are not just men. They're the worst of all men. So
you're not going to make men dressing like women cool. You're not going to do it. You're not going to make being queer cool. We're dealing with younger generations, maybe more than ever before. I don't know what the numbers are, but it just seems that just if you show up and say, I'm bisexual, people just laugh at you because it's weird.
Yeah.
No, you don't need, it's just a gut reaction no one's hiding anymore. Anyway.
But okay, we know elected conservatives are like one step removed from outright fascism at this point. But how are they justifying this? Yes, we all know they just forced this stuff through if they could. But at least for now, they still have to play by the rules of Western liberalism. So the key to their plan is to lean on unitary executive theory, which dates back to the devil himself, Ronald Reagan. In a nutshell,
Another guy who was voted in democratic liberalism. America has got a long history of electing fascists and devils, I guess.
this political theory suggests that maybe having 3 separate but equal branches of government isn't a good idea, and that instead, the executive branch should dominate the relationship. Reagan's team came up with this notion to help facilitate deregulation, and it kind of just stuck. Every president since Reagan has made use of this theory to wield just a little bit more power than they probably should have. Bush Jr. justifying his invasion of Iraq, Obama justifying widespread US deployment overseas, Trump's Muslim ban, and so on. Now, the Project 2025 ghouls want to make sure the president has essentially unchecked power, that Congress cannot prevent the president from doing what they want to do, however heinous their pet projects may be. There's a whole conversation about unitary executive theory in government circles. People are writing books about it and having very important conversations with very smart people.
Are they? I don't know.
No.
And you know what? That's what makes this so scary. The Republicans talk a big game about destroying cultural Marxism or waging war on woke, but that's just bluster. When they start coming up with justifications within the liberal framework, the Democrats will cave like they always do. Every single time we see them play ball with the far right, they cede a little more ground each time. Then you get a president like Biden, who just straight up accelerates the process by speeding up border wall construction, record number of oiling permits, simply loses because everyone is upset with him.
See, it must be weird being a progressive like this, because nothing you do seems to work. You know what I mean? Like, to them, it's like everyone you vote does the opposite, because at the end of the day, you can't have a country without a border. Like, the things you want don't make any sense. So you're like, everyone I vote in just does the opposite. Everyone's a fascist. So like America, I guess America's a fascist country then. So I guess what we're saying wouldn't be out of the norm, right?
Also, all of
this is
all
how
of
they
this
get
is-
twisted up in their own argument.
Yeah, it's like all in defense of the democratic institution as being a holy part of American history and culture. Well, I mean, you're attacking the Constitution, so you don't give a fuck really about American history or culture. And never mind that, even if you did, democracy is the system by which we've been electing all of these ostensible fascists for however, long. So like there's so many cases with this guy, but generally with these bleeding edge progressives where they really just don't make any sense. It's like this new, like deeper, thicker version of virtue signaling where they are just repeating a script over and over. It doesn't even bear, first order analysis before it falls apart.
We got a quote from Winkler's Meat here. The Dems are constantly conceding ground to the far right. Meanwhile, the country has never been more gay and retarded.
Correct.
Correct.
Bingo.
It turns out that like having gay people everywhere doesn't make anything better. It makes everything worse.
Yes. Speaking of which,
so-
Fabian Cartouche in the chat says, I've seen a weirdly high number of trannies cashiering at hardware and U-Haul rental places. I have too, actually. The Home Depot near me has got at least one fat tranny, and it's like, we're in a small town. Where did you even find a tranny? And Home Depot of all places, like there's a fucking used bookstore he could work at. So like there's something.
What do you think that's all about? What do you, if you had to speculate? What would that be?
My theory is it isn't that the companies go, like, I don't think Home Depot and Home Hardware are going out of their way to find troons. It's that the troons are going out of their way to apply to those jobs, because it's like the same thing we said earlier about sexual perverts, and they want to be like exposed. They want the conflict. They want to be pointed at and like jeered at. So if you go work at the used bookstore or the thrift shop, everyone's going to coddle you. But if you go to try to work at Home Hardware, you're going to get jostled by everybody, and they're going to give you a hard time even during the hiring process, probably, at least where I live. And that's what they want. That's how they get hard.
You want to be jostled, yeah.
You want to be jostled. Ooh, the big angry boomer is telling me that if I was his son, he'd roll me down the hill in a carpet. But yeah.
Well, we've got a line from Inquisitor Zed here. When I worked at Home Depot, they had a tranny, which is remarkable because it's not like I don't see them at computer stores. I don't see them at game stores. Like there's a lot of stores you don't see them in, but it's in the most masculine store. So it has to be an exhibitionist type thing. Like I'm presenting myself in a space where I'm going to upset the most amount of people. Like everything comes back to that fetish for them.
The Project 2025 people swoop in, and the Democrats just go along with it because it's technically legal. Not to do it again, but most fascists throughout history have come into power through technically legal means. And then they...
I love that. See, doesn't fascism just sound better and better as this guy's explaining it? Because according to him, America's always been fascist. It keeps fairly and legally electing fascist presidents from both parties. And So this is just part of a long history of electing fascists, and they seem like smart, capable people.
This is like America was born in the wrong body. America has been trying to transition for a century into its true fascist self, and you're denying it the political care that it needs. It desperately needs. America might commit suicide if you don't let it transition into a fascist global superpower. Please think of the children.
Damn, son, where'd you find that? Stop ass rape!
That was a good. That to me has me investing in Judas when I like that.
They change what's legal so you can't get them out again. Well, that's all pretty grim, huh? What's the solution here? Do we just vote harder? No. I mean, do that if you want, especially if you think you can make a difference at the local level.
I just want this guy to say there's no political solution.
Please.
But things have gotten worse for us with every single president. And things have certainly gotten worse for people living in the third world as the US gets more and more vicious abroad as our empire declines. The solution is the same as it's always been. Mass movements. Join an organization. Unionize your workplace. Learn to defend yourself and your community from fascist vigilante violence. Keep yourself safe online. Learn your rights. Educate yourself and those around you.
Gay.
You know, it's essentially saying there is no political solution. Educate yourself, protect yourself, buy a gun. Like, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we're saying, too, to be fair.
It's cool that this guy can have a fucking channel with 1.6 million subscribers and a very, very popular. Let me just see how many views does this have. 512,000 views, where he's essentially saying what we say on our fucking micro niche underground show, which is buy a gun, get ready for war, you create a parallel movement. That's what he's fucking saying right now, right?
Yeah.
They'll say like, no, I meant like learn Taekwondo. No one's learning Taekwondo.
Oro's post says this guy has AIDS. Yes, that's true. He does.
Let me just check the other chat here. Nothing go there. Okay.
Things like Project 2025 don't happen in a vacuum. There is an economic base to these developments. The US is losing ground on the world stage and will soon be superseded by China as the dominant economic power. Domestically, the average worker.
That's just wrong. I mean, I don't even want to go down that road, really, but
you haven't. This is clearly not your strong suit. You should stay out of geopolitics and economics. Sorry.
This is your mind just on Vosh videos. This is your mind.
This is your mind on the Reddit front page.
Yeah, China's gonna. Doesn't matter that you've been hearing that China's going to take over for the past 20 fucking years.
Yeah,
it's just, but no, they're going to do it because, and in his mind, he would say we deserve it.
Yeah,
worker is worse off now than in living memory. We can't afford the skyrocketing cost of housing, food, healthcare, utilities. Everything is going up except wages. We have no mandated paid sick leave or parental leave. We have no benefits, no labor protections, no chance for advancement as more and more companies move to the gig model of employment.
This is what I love about these guys. I love that they are still firmly entrenched in this sort of economic, like socialist populism that does not energize anyone anymore. Like maybe 5 years ago, they would have heard this. It's like fascism is coming. What should you do? Well, you should advocate for a living wage. Well, you know what? Fascists would probably guarantee a living wage, guys. Like a fascist government would probably it would turn on the spigots to probably get you paid more, and probably, ironically, a fascist government would probably give you free education.
This is what I was saying a minute ago, right? Like this to me again smacks of it being an op. Like he didn't write this script. He had some editorial oversight by somebody else who has an interest in it. Because most of what he's been saying so far has been like we said earlier, that the system is what it does, right? The left, the Democratic Party is just Gibbs for gays and browns. Most of what he's been talking about is how awful this is. It's awful because it hurts gays and browns, but you, viewer, you already knew that because you're a good person and that's why you love gays and browns. But now he's doing the part where he's selling it, and the way that he's selling it is the workers' rights, economics. You can't afford a house, you can't find a job. So the target demo is actually.
Sorry, let me just cut you off there.
Millennials, you know what I mean? But it's like,
sorry, just for a minute there, but I am going to mention a quote by Oro's post for the audio listeners. He said, "Someone with curlier hair wrote this."
All right, that's right.
He's talking about obviously I can't tell if you cut out or if that just didn't land.
I think I cut out. I'm having connection problems now.
Okay, I will tell you about it later. Let's keep going. This one quote from Fabian Cartou. She says, "It's hard to tell because this whole mindset is op based. They don't have to be operatives to shill the
True.
canon." I think
True.
that's a very
Good
sensible
point.
point. They do not need to be even
Just
conscious of it.
janissary.
Everything. Yeah, well, we talk about the Redditor, and I think that that's a pejorative. We make fun of the Redditor, but the Redditor is a type of mind. The Redditor is the inverse of a shape rotator. There's someone who doesn't really have any sort of intellectual agency. They just literally, I know people in my own life who say they watch the feed, they read headlines, and they trust that the headlines, that's what it is. That's what's going on in the world. And so them regurgitating it might as well be intelligence because they've never actually had to process information. And what's interesting is those people can do very, very well in school. Those are the rote memorizers. Indians and Chinese people they do great on tests. They do great on exams because they cram information in. They don't understand it. They can't recontextualize it. They can't pick it apart and put it back together. But for all intents and purposes, they are at the very least midwits. They could even be from a distance fairly intelligent people. I bet within this guy's friend group, he's one of the more intelligent guys. I bet they think he's well read, but he just says insane things that you would have to actually stop and kind of open it up in the laboratory in your mind and dissect and say, wait, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't track logically. But that we were talking before about what type of audience would this be for. It's like there's millions of those people out there. At least I think. Here's Winkler's meat once again. The Redditor is incapable of perceiving truth for himself. We could spend all day on Redditors too if we wanted to, but let's see what this
These
guy
are
has to
structural
say.
problems caused by the very nature of capitalism. Run the simulation 1,000 times and we'll end up right here every single time. The race for endlessly increasing profits results in monopoly over accumulation of it. Economic desperation among
See, and if you like, I'm trying to put myself in the position of someone who's listening to this. This rant on capitalism seems to have zero to do with what you just talked about. Like we were talking about a document
Yeah.
that outlines the GOP's plan to get hired, and now it's like, well, obviously this is capitalism, and it's about rising profits. That has actually nothing to do with what we were just talking about, right? Anyway.
the masses and a surge of reaction that carries fascism to the very top. You want a different result? Break the machine that powers these societal evils. If capitalism is allowed to survive, we will not. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that this episode was made possible by Henson Shaving. This is a new
Okay.
Wow, what? Destroy capitalism. This video sponsored by Henson Shaving. Dude. Oh my god. I really want to kill this guy. Look at his face. Fuck.
That is so fucking funny.
No way, dude.
new one for me, and I'm actually really glad they reached out, because I've been using safety razors for years. It's just a way better
Yeah, I can
experience than
tell.
those awful little cartridge
I can tell you've been using safety razors for years.
Oh god. What a great thing. All right, so that was that is the left's or the progressives' view on what this is, and it's not that different from what I've seen other people say. I'm just gonna go look up a couple more things here because we're getting to the end of this. That was pretty much all I wanted to cover. I'm on the fence about if I want to look once again at this. Let me just pull this up here. Here we go. So we're back on the Project 2025. Once again, look at this. Just having heard what you just heard, look what we're looking at here. It's just Department of Defense, intelligence community. Okay, what do we say about the intelligence community? It's written by Dustin J. Carmack. To arm a future incoming conservative president with the knowledge and tools necessary to fortify the United States, to defend against all foreign enemies, to ensure the security and prosperity. Read this. Nothing in this thing even sounds radical. Executive order 12332. That sounds kind of ominous. I don't even think I could start reading this. I'm going to be here for like another half an hour reading this shit. But it's just a plan for the typical conservative stuff you have heard. Now, I doubt it goes as far as even like the Charlie Kirks recently would have, or maybe even the Orrin McIntyres, who would speak a bit more openly about great replacement theory and things like that. I don't know how racial it gets aside from mass migration. Um, but I think that's all you fucking need. I think we're allowed. They don't need to stake a claim on that, as far as I'm concerned. Um, anyway, so that's just all I wanted to talk about with that. And I think, and I'm curious to hear what you say about this. I think this model could be appropriated for Canadian Parliament. I think Canadian Parliament, it's a different beast entirely. Obviously, we don't have a president. We don't have this war between the executive branch and Congress. The relationship between MPs, members of Parliament, and the Prime Minister is very, very different. We also have the fucking British crown in the mix. So, you know, it's ceremonial, it's ornamental, but it's still there. That's why the Canadian system is different. However, I think the model of let's get our guys, and our guys meaning they don't need to have gone to the right schools. They don't need to be the right people. They could be vape race. They could be microdosing race. They could be I subscribe to too many Substacks race, you know, and actually get them into start looking around you and say, who could be in government? Who do we know? Because I think there's probably some openings. Like the carcass of the Conservative Party of Canada, I think is so bloated that you can get a lot of interested people in there. And the only thing that's ever stood in our way is no one wants to do it. They think it's a who would want to ever get involved in politics? It's for, you know, policy wonks and, you know, guys who study too much in school. However, I think there's a way to get interesting people in there. 'Cause especially in fucking Ontario, like, remember, guys, we had Rob Ford as mayor.
Yeah.
We had a great big fat crack addict as mayor of Toronto, and everyone loved him. People still love him. They have a Chinese communist lady as mayor of Toronto. And I still think if you pull them right now, they would kind of miss old Ford, smoking crack, conservative, saying he's going to stop the gravy train. You know what I mean? Those guys are still out there. I guess what I'm saying is, like, again, we close the books on crack. Can we reopen the books on crack? Can we reopen the book on being a great big fat asshole?
Yeah. Crack open the book on crack, as it were.
Yeah. All right. So let's see here. Zora's post again. We need Mayor Daley back. Oh, here's interesting. Behold in the chat, his son got his phone and typed "by N."
Bye N. Bye.
Bye N. This is the year of like really cool sons.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Nichols, my son, 10 months old, he's got this thing where he likes to open up his own books and kind of spread them out in front of him, his picture books and stuff. And so he loves having 2 or 3 books open at once. And it finally hit me that he's becoming a multiple monitor guy.
Oh, buddy.
Don't say, oh no. That's not an oh no. That's a hell yes.
That's true. I got 3 monitors up right now.
I got 2, and every single day I wish for a third. I'm leaving money on the table. Think about how much more boring fucking bullshit I could pour. I've got people here saying, stop reading that website. Do not go back to this place. I was trying to see, what do we got here for personnel? This does look like a government website, doesn't it? Training. I want to have a look at this. Oh, what's this? Presidential Administration Academy. We haven't had a look at this
There we
yet.
go.
Hold on.
Exist to conserve the ideals of the American founding.
These ideas are actually the source of our recovery.
On January 20th, when the president puts his hand on the Bible, everything changes.
Our goal is to ensure that the conservative administration that takes office in January of 2025 is ready on day one.
The next conservative president will only be able to do so with your help.
There's a lot of people I don't like the look of in this. I'm just going to say that. Moving on.
From the president of the Conservative Partnership.
This guy right here. I'm not sure. He's got a villainous look about him. He might be cool. I don't know.
Institute,
Vice President of Hillsdale College.
The head of the Office of Justice Programs.
Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs.
Just an Russian Orthodox guy right here. A real because these guys got some fucked up ideas. You put this guy right here in charge of something, he is going to burn down every Protestant church he can get his hands on.
We're gonna have some laughs.
We're gonna have some laughs. You're a Baptist. Your days are numbered with that guy in charge.
Advisor to the president.
Assistant press secretary.
You're here to cut government. You're here to do something that's not in their interest.
The deep state is real. You want to be someone who knows answers.
As a public servant, you're working on behalf of the American people, the greatest country on the planet.
Let me just say this. From what I'm seeing here, I wish it was a bit less stuffy. You know what I mean? I think there's an energy and a vigor behind the mandate for leadership, and I'm seeing a bunch of old fuddy-duddies. And I know these are like serious people.
It doesn't really gel with what they were selling on the front page.
Yeah, it's like this is what we're pitching as a revolution. And this seems like stock photography. I'm hearing stock video. I'm hearing the same script I've heard before. Conservatives, we're about you're actually about change. You're about radical change. That's cool. That's what gets young people involved. Like I don't see anyone in there below the age of like 50. You know what I mean? Like you need a young face to this because they're the ones who you're trying to get involved. Now the unreconstructed Substack is written by someone who's maybe putting a different sort of line on it, a little bit more stank on it. But I think the official face of this could maybe for the first time ever be an effective youth movement, and I don't think they're pushing that as much as they could. Anyway, that's just my. There's also a part here on the Substack. Donald J. Trump learned to think continentally. Not sure you would agree with that, but I do. I like weird Imperium stuff. I love
fair enough.
empires. Yeah. Anyway, that pretty much concludes everything I want to talk about. I'm just going to check the chats right here. I think we've covered everything that we wanted to. Do you have any closing thoughts on that?
Nope. We covered it.
What do you think of the possibility? Do you feel that this is something we could adopt north of the border?
In Canada, yes, I do think so. I like the approach. I mean, obviously, we can't just take this document, but the way that they went about this, we said it earlier, where you say there's no point in creating a political party because there's no political solution. Well, why? Don't treat that as an unsurmountable obstacle. Figure out what would actually be necessary, even if it seems too high a cost. What would actually be necessary to break down that wall, to actually have a real political solution? Because obviously, just running a normal political party, a normal campaign, like for example, the PPC, we can all vote for the PPC, and it's not going to make a damn sight of difference because the elections are rigged. And once he gets in, he's going to be fought by cabinet and by the RCMP, by everybody. So what would you actually need to change? And it's like the party and the election is a little bit of it, but it's mostly to do with bureaucracy and administration and greasing the right wheels and having people ready. And yeah, it's good. I don't know anything about this. So, I'm not the one to say how we could do it specifically, but I think it could be done.
What I would love to see, like we were just talking about, is this paired with a proper youth movement? Because one thing we've talked about before is the younger generations essentially grabbing the torch from the older generations. There's no torch passing that's happening. That's fine. But there can be a dialogue between young people and boomers, those who are leaving these positions right now. I think a plan can be hatched because Fabian Cartouche in the chat, he had mentioned, if they're telling you they're going to do it, they're not. I'd be hopeful if it was supposed to be a secret. Interesting point. But I do think there is a more energized youth movement. And this would be seen as a youth revolution of we are going to grab the torch of those in the administrative state and bring that vitality back to it. I think, if anything, I think we can pair this idea, reshape it into something a bit more acute, a bit more focused, and make this the explicit domain of all the young people who have that sort of energy but don't know where to put it. I think you can actually wield this against the managerial class. You know what I mean? Like I think that there's something there where it's like, okay, the parties themselves are, like I said, bloated corpses. You can actually do something with that.
Yeah.
And we've known people in our lives who like did everything right. They went to school for political science, and they ran up against that wall of, I don't like dealing with these people every day, so I'm going to go get into marketing. I'm going to go get into some other field. But I'm like, I think there's a way to do this where you don't need to be such a blithering nonce. You don't need to be such a stuffy nerd. Like maybe you can get a few more weirdos in the mix, show up to the political function not by yourself, but with 5 of your guys, and start spiking the punch.
There you
And
go.
start causing a scene. Start being being the bullies. It's hard to be one bully. It's easy to be 6 to 12 bullies. And I think really all it is you get 5 of your politically motivated guys, start a chapter in your school, take this and start showing up at the fundraisers. And
Yeah.
be the only young people in the world. Because alone, you can't do anything. Alone, you're just chewed up and spat out by the machine. But like I said, 5 to 12 guys can do essentially whatever the fuck they want in the world
Yep.
with enough, tenacity and discipline. So that's what I think. I think there is some reshaping that can be done with this. And I think maybe it's done. I think that's how you actually get a lot of the purse strings of the older generation involved too, because if they're looking to pour capital somewhere, it's like, well, here's something the young people are doing. Like, I don't think anyone wants to put money in the fucking Cato Institute or into the fucking PragerU.
No.
Like, what the fuck is PragerU doing? That's not anything. I think they even see that, okay, Zionism's fucking boring. No, who the fuck gives a shit about this? What are the young people doing? And there's been some attempts. I think that's what America First tried to be, and there's been a few attempts, but maybe just keep going. Don't give up on that part, But also don't be so fucking antisocial. Like, don't just be like anime people either. There's a way to do this right.
Just cut it out with the fucking anime, guys. Jeez.
Let's put the anime away for
Put the
a
anime
bit.
away. Yeah.
Let's put the anime away for just a bit. You can still watch me. Just don't put it on your shirt and go to the political function. Don't wear a hentai pin instead of an American flag.
Yes.
Don't be a vouch. Don't be the guy who's wearing his browser search history on the back of his suit.
You got to stop scaring the hose.
Yeah. Stop scaring those, because every boomer, man or woman, has the mind of a hoe.
True.
It's okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I think we got all the comments, all the super chats and everything. So great stream. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, good one. See you, man. Cheers.